Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Happy Friday. We're here live on August 22nd, 2025, and we are doing new moon and Virgo readings. But I'm also answering other questions that you guys have about your natal chart, or if you have questions about synastry, timing questions, you name it. I am here to help you guys. You can see me, give me a thumbs up and like this video and drop a comment in the chat. And once again, we're live on Friday the 22nd. So if you guys are watching this on Saturday or Sunday, I am no longer live. Sorry I missed you, and hopefully I will catch you guys next week. And I'm excited to get into doing some readings for you guys. So if this is your first time here getting a reading, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. Click the bell button below. That way you guys can follow more of my work. I'm here every Friday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time doing readings. We alternate between astrology and tarot. But tomorrow we have a kind of wild and crazy new moon in Virgo. So I'm answering your guys' questions about that new moon and any other questions you guys have about timing, synastry charts, or questions about your natal chart. If you want to get in the queue and get a reading, scan the QR code right here. This is going to take you to my PayPal. We are taking donations for readings. So if you want a reading, we do have to request a donation. It is $55 US for a one question reading. Please, in the memo box, remember to put your time, date of birth, and location along with your question and anything else that pertains to what you're asking about. I'm going to be pulling up the charts live in real time, answering your guys' questions on YouTube. I appreciate your patience. We are taking the readings in the order that we receive them. You guys will hear me actually kind of calling out a couple names. Usually before I get started, I do kind of like a laundry list of everybody who's in the queue, and then you'll hear me take about 2 or 3 names at a time. If you hear me calling out your name, it means your reading is coming up. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to get through these readings, so if you can't stay, no worries. You can come back to this video and you can actually watch it at a later point. And let me know, leave me comments and let me know how the readings play out for you guys. So thank you guys. I know there's some people here that haven't seen me before live, so thanks for joining us. For those of you guys who are getting readings, so this is who I have in the queue. We do have some level 3 people here. So if you are, level 4, we just kind of switched the levels. If you're a level 4 person who gets your monthly reading with me and you haven't cashed in on it, let me know. I'm happy to put you in the queue. But we do have Kadia, and then CZ was asking questions. I did not see you, so I apologize, but you're asking if it's worth getting a synastry reading if you don't have the information for both people. Honestly, ideally, you have the time, date of birth, and location for both parties, because when I look at the synastry, I'm going to flip it back and forth and look at, both of the ascendants and the placements and the order of the planets. So it is ideal to have the birth information for both people. But also, if you're a level 4 member, we don't do synastry for your memberships. You can pay the difference if you want to do that. And that's something that some members opt to do. I think it's like a $15 or a $20 difference. I'll have to check. But you're more than welcome to do that if you want, but I recommend getting the info if you can. What's up, Appy? What's up, Tabitha, Courtney, Melissa, Bree? Thank you. I know a couple of you guys joined memberships. Thanks for joining. And CZ, if you are watching or if you're listening to this and you want to get your reading, let me know. Otherwise, we've got Citrus Farm, Lulwa, Winnie, Yulia, Dena, Melissa, and Rachel. You guys are already in the queue. And we're going to start with Miss Kadia. Hopefully you're doing well. I'm going to answer questions for members, and then we will get on with the list. And let me add Bree in there too. And Bree, I don't think I have you, so let me plug you in really quick so that way I've got you in my charts here. September 6th, 87. Oops. There we go. So I've got you saved too there, Bree. And just to double check here, it looks like Bree, Miss Kadia, Dena, Coco, Appy, and Rosie, you guys are all level 4 people. So I have got you. What's up, Tata? All right, so let's go ahead and we will get started with Miss Kadia, and then we will take Bree next. And if CZ pops in, we'll take her as well. So let's take a look at your question. It looks like she says, hello, beautiful. Cashing in on my membership reading, looking for a general new moon reading. I watched a new moon in Virgo video, wanted a more in-depth look on what I should be aware of. Thanks again, as always. You're so loved and appreciated. Well, thank you. All right, so we've got you here, April 9th, 1990, Aquarius rising with your sun in Aries and your moon in Libra. So basically, you know, the new moon is going to be hitting your Placidus chart specifically in your 7th house. Okay, so yes, it's whole sign 8th house for Aquarius rising, but for you, it's going to be in your 7th. So you get like a double dose of manifestational stuff this month when it comes to relationships, because I think you had we had the most recent one in Leo. I think it was at what, 2, 3, 4 degrees. So you have another one. If you guys have not already seen my new moon in Virgo video, definitely check it out, especially considering the aspects are just kind of wild. And this is a new moon that in 6 months time is going to be a lunar eclipse. So next March-ish is when this is going to be a full moon, and like the transits that are going on then are like a little wild. So this is the first of what will be 2 new moons in Virgo. The next one's going to be at 29 degrees. That'll be obviously next month, but something to think about is like the new moons in themselves are kind of unusual because it's a black moon. So we're going to have 2 new moons that are going to be in the same solar sign. So it's a double dose of Virgo energy, organization, care, cleanliness, you know, themes connecting to productivity, connecting to health, to wellness. And I think it's really interesting that one of the primary aspects, at least that I found the most kind of wild, is probably the fact that this new moon is making a lot of aspects to outer planets. So as an Aquarius rising, you're traditionally ruled by Saturn. Saturn is actually just hanging out at 0 degrees of Aries in your 2nd house. And obviously your modern day ruler is Uranus. So you always want to kind of know what's going on with those 2 planets. This new moon is going to in conjunct and quincunx Saturn. It's also going to in conjunct and quincunx Pluto. And this is making the new moon form what we consider a finger of fate or a yod, right? I heard somebody else recently refer to it as like getting the finger, right? Because it really kind of rubs us the wrong way, or it's something that's like sticking out that we have to kind of deal with. As an astrologer, I thought that was hilarious hearing that analogy. But it makes such significant aspects to Pluto on your ascendant, which is major reinvention, transformation, personal power, right? Anything revolving around also your career and authority. And then Saturn in your 2nd house and Neptune in your 2nd house, which is going to be dealing with self-esteem, money, resources, and support. So it's basically saying that the new moon is seeding an opportunity for you to connect with other people. Now, the 7th house, for example, is partners, right? Relationships. It could be clients. This could also be your marketplace if you have a business or if you sell services. And also, like, this is connected to your astrologers. Your 7th house is where you go and you consult with another person, whether it's a therapist, an astrologer, a reading, you know, a manager of some kind. So this tells me that for the next 6 months, like, relationships are going to serve, or new opportunities or new cycles in relationship are going to come in. Could be new people too. That's like pressing on you to change and transform in some way. Also, it's really pressing on you when it comes to your self-esteem, your security, your finances. So just those aspects alone are pretty significant for your chart. The other aspect that this is making is it's making a square to Uranus in Gemini, okay? And Uranus, thankfully, in your 4th house, you know, maybe it's kind of making things feel a little restless at home. Maybe you're contemplating or considering changes with your home or your family dynamic. Maybe there's a lot of like unexpected family stuff coming up, or like emotions coming up. And with the square to Uranus, it's basically saying for the immediate next month as we go through this next lunar cycle, but up to the next 6 months before this matures and turns into a full moon, what you're going to find is that there are new people coming into your life that are pushing you to break with old, outdated ways of feeling. Maybe there could be some new relationship developments, or, you know, kind of hitting reset in certain relationships that are really going to be pressing on you to kind of like break free with the past. Not thinking about the past, not talking about the past, not rehashing the past, and like freeing yourself. So that could be a therapist that comes in that shines light and gives you insight onto, you know, family trauma. It could be a new relationship that comes in that's like really encouraging you to be really front and center and like present with this new relationship opportunity. It could also indicate that there is a little bit of like a wild card energy or something that's kind of out of the blue or unexpected that's coming up in regards to a home or a living situation that impacts relationships or vice versa. So all of those things are rather important. I think in a sense, you know, there's other things that are happening. I'm looking at like Mars sitting on top of your moon. So it is going to be kind of pushing you to evolve and change and transform, especially emotionally in regards to home and family ties. It is also putting Mercury on your South node, which is trying to kind of release any stress, tension, or thoughts or communication and connection with relationships that have kind of already run their course. Recently, over the last month or so, you've had Mercury that's gone retrograde over your South node. So it tells me that there's already been a sense of trying to kind of weigh things out with relationships and decide like who is and is not communicating very well, or whether or not there is a need to rehash old relationship dynamics or reconnect with certain people or let certain people go. So now Mercury is actually kind of wrapping up over the next couple of days. It's post-retrograde shadow. So even though the retrograde's over, Mercury's still going through the degrees, which, you know, it has retrograded at recently. And Mercury rules Virgo. So in order for you to start new, there's a need to kind of release or detach from anything in the past. Now this can, if you're single, definitely bring in some prominent relationship energy where it could feel like soulmates or kind of past life oriented, or people who are familiar, people who are coming in that is kind of helping you evolve out of your old relationship patterns. And probably the other aspect that's, I think, pretty interesting too, is that you're also seeing that not only is Mars on your moon, but now it's starting to come into an opposition with your sun. So from an Aries kind of sun perspective, you're going to hear, oh, this is about job changes, or this is going to be about health changes, or, you know, maybe shifts with your relationship to coworkers. Certainly Virgo in the 7th house can be relationship to coworkers, airing out issues that are potentially coming up in terms of work relationships. And these aspects are going to kind of reverberate out for the better part of like the next 6 months or so. I think another aspect that's probably pretty good for your chart too is that it's not only ruled by Mercury, but it's trining your natal Mercury. And you're kind of in the process of getting ready to have Mercury cross your ascendant, Pluto cross your ascendant and start squaring your Mercury. So that's going to bring a lot of transformations in the way that you're communicating, potentially with like siblings. Mercury's in your 3rd house, or how you're communicating with family. And maybe you've been feeling kind of the stress of that recently. So it's not exact yet. It won't be exact for still another couple of years, but the new moon trining Mercury is helping you really get things in order, better communicate, plan travel, anything revolving around education. And from like a whole sign perspective, this is a new moon that's going to be in your 8th. So it's going to be about how you're organizing and working things out, kind of connecting to 8th house topics. So intimacy, vulnerability, joint finances, money, investments, inheritance. And your Mercury is in Taurus. So it's in a sign that is grounded and kind of earthly. And it's also very focused on finance or security. So this is a good new moon if you're wanting to say, okay, I'm wanting to come up with a budget or a plan for paying off debt, or if you're wanting to apply for loans, or if you're wanting to renegotiate some of your finances. If you're also looking to refinance, that could be something else that you could consider doing. And I think with Mercury being so strongly tied to your 5th house, which is very much about dating, it's trying to kind of get you to be a little bit more open to where you're dating, how you're meeting people. Like Mercury in the 3rd could be locally, it could be online, it could also be using apps, it could be as a result of travel. So stay open to that, lean into the trine that's working with your natal Mercury. And also it's a bit wide, but it is also trining your natal Uranus, which can really kind of help you tap into your intuition, to dreams, anything that's going to be more kind of spiritually inclined. Definitely a good reading, a time to get a reading with an astrologer because of the aspects that it's making to both Pluto and Saturn. I feel like so much of the new moon here is saying that you're open to relationships and like focusing on partnerships, but you're not going to let them define you. The in conjunct and the quincunx to Pluto was a lot of, I don't want to give my power away, you know, I don't want to be too dependent. And the South Node is tied to these new moons. So it is kind of saying there is a sense of, you know, having new settings or commitments or intentions with relationships, but not getting too enmeshed with other people. And the in conjunct and the quincunx to Saturn and Neptune is also really good, I think, for not letting your self-esteem or your value be determined on whether or not you're in a relationship or if somebody wants you. This could be a wonderful time also to be kind of, you know, talking to people about finances and organizing your finances as not only it trines your Mercury, but it's also coming into an in conjunct or a quincunx with Saturn in your second house. So if there's like a blind spot in regards to budgets, if you need to start getting your end of the year ready, if you're looking for a new accountant or like a new tax preparer, it can be saying that people can come in that can kind of help you get some of these financial things kind of organized and feel a little bit more stable so there aren't any like shocks and surprises that could be coming down the road, right? Anyway, I hope that that's helpful for you and giving you some insight on this new moon. Definitely know how that manifests, and the opposition to Venus also makes me feel like you're going to be bringing in some attention, or there's going to be some people who are going to be interested in connecting with you. So I imagine you'll have some admirers from this one. Hopefully that's helpful. What's up, Tada? Thanks for joining memberships. What's going on, Rosie? She says, peace and light as level 4. If I had a reading this month, how do I ask for another reading? Well, you can buy another reading if you want, and I'll put you at the top of the list because you're a member, or if you want, you can wait until they restart in September, but you're always welcome to get another reading if you want to buy one. All right, so we have got, next up, is CZ here? Did she pop in? Let me know. Thanks, Yulia. This is my matching hoodie that I have with my French Bulldog. We each have one, although I think he kind of outgrew his. I don't know. He's a little on the chonky side these days. All right, so we've got Bree. So let's pull Bree up. Bree, thanks for being a member. All right, let's take a look and see what Bree has to say here. Cashing in on my membership, I just want a general new moon reading. All right, Bree, September 6, 87, 12:57 p.m. And that was in Arizona. And that's going to give you a Sagittarius rising, moon in Pisces, and sun is in Virgo. Wow, wow, wow. Look at all the stuff that's going to ricochet off your chart, girl. This new moon is in exact opposition to your natal moon. There we go. So you've got a 0-degree Pisces moon. Bree, I don't know if you follow some of my live readings, but I do not use whole sign when I'm doing the live readings. I like to use Placidus. So this is what I use in my private practice too, because it's going to be a little bit more accurate in my opinion. The first thing I think about, Bree, is I want you to go back in time. I don't even want to talk about this new moon yet. That doesn't feel as important at the moment. I want to go back and I want to talk about the lunar eclipse that we had in March of 2025, about 6 months ago, okay? So make a mental note. Back then, this was the very first eclipse in Virgo that you had as a part of the new eclipse cycles that would then be in Pisces and Virgo, okay? So last fall, we had a Pisces eclipse. This spring, we had a lunar eclipse in Virgo. That one was a full moon lunar eclipse. So maybe, especially because it was on your midheaven, there was a lot of communication and focus on changes and things that were going on and what you were releasing or letting go pertaining to your career, right? It was in your 10th house. And when this happened, Mercury, the ruler, was starting to retrograde in your 5th going into your 4th. So there was like a sense of, what's changing at work? Where am I feeling a little maybe burnt out, or am I changing jobs or changing direction with my professional goals? Looks like there was just much more of an emphasis on home and family dynamics, or where you're living, or maybe you're just wanting to kind of spend more time at home. Any which way you slice it, that eclipse just was all over your chart, squared Uranus, opposed your 4th house. So that's just going to give you a little bit of like a flavor of like what the Virgo energy is going to do. Now that was a full moon lunar eclipse. So it was kind of saying, okay, I'm emotionally wiped. I'm tired. You know, I want to let some of this stuff go. Or maybe there was going to be some potential changes revolving around what you want to do professionally, wanting to do something that feels more fulfilling or creative because Mercury was retrograde in your 5th. So now we're 6 months down the road, almost, and we're getting ready to have what's going to be the first of what will be 2 new moons in Virgo. So the first one's going to be at 0 degrees. Technically, it's in your 9th house. So this is going to resonate more along the lines of, you know, the Capricorn rising horoscope, where it's like, okay, new moon in your 9th house. What are you wanting to learn? Where are you traveling? What do you believe in? And then the solar eclipse that we're going to have in Virgo, which will be at 29 degrees next month, is going to be more pertaining to your career. It's going to be right on top of your Mercury. So I look at this and I go, all right, new moon here. Obviously, it's squaring your ascendant. Obviously, it's also opposing your moon. Traditionally, when I see a new moon in the 9th, I'm like, well, if you want to plan a trip, you can do that. If you want to think about taking a course, if you want to, you know, take up what can be a new area of study, or maybe you're working with a teacher or a mentor of some kind, maybe you want to write or publish something, you can do that, but it's squaring Uranus. So if, for whatever reason, you're trying to say, okay, I want to go back to school, or I'm wanting to be traveling, or I'm wanting to learn something new, it looks like one of the themes that you will experience over like the next month, and to some extent over the next 6 months, is, well, how do I find time for that? Right? Uranus in your 6th, or where there is sudden fluctuations and changes going on with your schedule, your routine, your work, where you're working, how you're working. There can also be this inconsistency or feeling like there's like lack of stability that's going on in your daily routine, which is pushing you to go more into the 9th house, where from a whole sign perspective, 10th, career changes. It could mean that you're thinking about training or certification or traveling for education. That could actually boost your career and your social status. That's another interpretation that I have. From a whole sign perspective, it's like, okay, Sagittarius rising, you have the opportunity to start thinking about how to get your work in order, what you do want to be doing, how you can be of service, how you can help people. But in order to do that, you're almost kind of disrupting, or you're kind of shaking up potential relationships, right? Uranus in your whole sign 7th. So it tells me that in order to navigate making changes professionally, you would benefit from getting an astrology reading, right? Uranus going into your 7th house, or working with a career coach, or maybe there is going to be somebody who you talk to that's connecting to job placement. So that kind of stuff, you can see a little bit of both, because I could see either or kind of manifesting. The positive, I think, is that, you know, even in spite of this square, which makes me feel like there is going to be some curveballs coming up for you, either with travel or education, I do think that the positive is it is coming into a trine with your natal Neptune. So it means that you're feeling inspired, you're listening to your intuition or your gut. There is a sense of you feeling like you're making changes with work that's going to resonate with you more emotionally. And also simultaneously, it's an out of sign trine, but it's trining your Jupiter. Your Jupiter's at 29 degrees. So feeling more spiritually inclined, tapped in, fulfilled, and also bringing you a little bit of like a dose of good luck. Obviously, Jupiter is your chart ruler. So I like that. I'm wondering, you know, as somebody who's got this much Virgo in your chart, how you're faring with the South Node having gone through your sign. Obviously, it's already hit Mercury, so there's probably been some changes to your relationships with people at work or professionally, or your relationship status even. And now it's coming up on your Venus. So that's telling me with the Venus South Node that, yeah, you could be having a change in your schedule with who you're working with, the company you're working for. Maybe there is a sense of feeling like less kind of like tapped in or engaged at work. Obviously, Pisces, you know, Saturn and Neptune are swinging back into Pisces. So for a lot of Sag rising charts, it's going to manifest as like focusing more on what's going on in the home front. And Saturn's going to continue to oppose Mercury, your career lord and your relationship lord. So you'll kind of feel like from September until the new year, there is an emphasis more on kind of getting grounded and kind of building things out that's going on with like the home and family dynamics, or where you're living, or kind of dealing with emotions more and being like less consumed with what's going on at work. This is helping you kind of break that schedule up a little bit and say, okay, how can I be more kind of either free, or where can I bring something that's more unconventional or unusual into my daily routine that's going to help me kind of break away from having something that's like rigid or where I feel stuck or in like one particular place. Now, this is the first of what will be 2 new moons. So not only as a Virgo sun is this really significant for you because it's going to represent this kind of period of like, you know, a fresh reset, but you're going to have the second one that's going to be at 29, which is about, I think, kind of like uncovering blockages or issues or fears revolving around your path forward, you know, professionally. And then the next one is going to be conjunct your Mercury, and it's going to oppose Saturn, and that'll be next month. So I know you only asked about this one, but I kind of feel the need to tell you that this is starting what next month is going to pick up and then go, okay, now we do this. And it's possible you're going to either start a new job, or there's going to be some major announcement at work or something like that. And that eclipse is going to oppose Saturn and Neptune in your 4th, which means it's going to push you back into, you know, your kind of professional career life, or there's going to be feeling like you're getting pulled in 2 different directions between what's going on with your home and private life and what's going on with work. And for the most part, I mean, even that eclipse, even though it's in opposition to Saturn, which is tricky, it will trine Pluto, so it's going to be good for money. It will trine Uranus, so it's going to be good for job changes. So I would say right now, stay open. Maybe don't plan any travel in the immediate next couple of days. I would wait. You'll have an opportunity to do more of that down the road. And for some of you who have like a later degree Sag rising, this could mean that you're like, well, actually, I am planning on trips. I am going places, and it means that I'm, you know, kind of changing my schedule a little bit and creating a little bit more flexibility with your day-to-day routine to make it possible for you to go somewhere, right? Anyway, obviously, everybody knows at this point. I feel like I've kind of like driven that point home, but the new moon is the focal point between Pluto and also between Saturn and Neptune. So Pluto's in your money house, Saturn and Neptune's in your home house. And there is a sense of you going, how could I be a little bit more adventurous, or what can I be learning, or what can I be doing to improve my financial situation, and also simultaneously get out of the house, right? Are you teaching? Are you training? You know, are you getting a certification? Are you going to be considering working in a way that's going to allow you to travel? Those could definitely be some things that can come up for you. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Bree. Thanks for joining memberships. I appreciate it. And for those of you guys who are just checking in, scan the QR code if you want to get on the queue. If you want to get a reading, make sure that you put your info in the memo box so that way I can pull up your chart. All right, and then we've got Rosie. What's up, Rosie? So let's take a look and see what we can tell Rosie here. And is this, I want to make sure I have the right Rosie, March 15th, 84? Hi. Rosie says, howdy, I see how I settle for less. I like all the time. Please provide a 30-day outlook for managing anxious energy blocks, removing boulders, or attracting or drawing in a partner. Okay. Well, Rosie, I'm going to tell you in a nutshell, the fact that, and I know I already mentally kind of consider that we're in like eclipse season. I know from the second we have the new moon tomorrow, 2 weeks from now, we're going to then have a lunar eclipse in Pisces. So I'm already kind of like, we're in it. So for a lot of the people I've been speaking to the last like 2 or 3 weeks, or like clients that I've had, I've noticed that the predictions that are coming through in the eclipse charts are already manifesting. So I would say as a Pisces, you know, part of what's going to be happening with the eclipses is they're going to be relational, right? Full moon, lunar eclipse in Pisces, where the sun is in Virgo, your opposite sign, and the moon's in your sign. So that's just kind of highlighting where you're at emotionally with yourself. Obviously, Saturn is retrograding back into your sign as a Pisces. So it's going to be about the goals that Pisces have, the boundaries that they have, the responsibility, and kind of like the maturing that they're doing. And then the second eclipse that we're going to have at the end of September is going to be at 29 degrees Virgo. So from a Pisces perspective, new moon, solar eclipses, new actions you're taking in relationships, and it's in opposition to Saturn and Neptune in your sign, where a lot of Pisces are going to go, I want to connect with partners. I want that relationship. It's at 29, so it's going to feel critical. And then also, you know, I think Saturn and Neptune in opposition to the eclipse is like, am I seeing things clearly, right? Do I feel alone? Certainly Saturn and Neptune can bring up these feelings of like isolation and abandonment, okay? And this is purely all just from the perspective of Pisces. We're not looking at anything else in your chart. But I would say we need something really strong to be happening involving the moon, whether it's a lunar eclipse, whether there's a transit on your moon. This is the kind of stuff we need to see. So if we look at what's happening over the next month, I would say, well, the next phase of potential relationship energy could be when Venus is coming up on your moon. So around September 13th, 14th, and 15th. Obviously, the moon represents relationships. Venus is obviously going to be kind of connected to your professional life or meeting people out in the world, and also dating. So this is a transit you're going to want to watch mid-September. Looks like on the 15th when this happens, you also have the moon meeting with Jupiter in the 7th house. So all year long and really into next year, Jupiter is going to be kind of expanding your 7th house of relationships, bringing you the opportunity to meet new people. Now, what's crazy is that Jupiter rules the 12th. So it can mean that there is like soulmate energy that's hanging around this year, or there's somebody that you meet in a strange, mystical, magical way. Maybe you're having dreams about people before you meet them, right? And you are Saturn and your partners are the moon. So you want to get into the habit, I would say, of like tracking when the moon is going through Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. Okay, like go and get like a like an ephemeris or use like an astrology, you know, app on your phone, because when the moon is in the 7th house of Cancer, you know, once a month for 2 or 3 days over the next year, that's going to open the likelihood of you meeting somebody, right? And yeah, Jupiter is connected to the 12th house of self-sabotage, so people can kind of be like, what's up? Why don't you want to hang out? Or why aren't you interested? Or like, when are you available? And like, you'll see that either you can get kind of squirrely or other people can get kind of squirrely when it comes to relationships. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is when the moon's going through Scorpio, even though it's a difficult place to have the moon will be hitting your natal Saturn and it'll be trining Saturn. So that's also going to give you the opportunity to meet someone. And then when it's going through Pisces, it'll come into conjunction with Saturn and it's in your 3rd house of communication. So I would just off the bat want to know when the moon is in water signs this year, because it's going to open the door to you meeting people. The other thing that I think about is that, you know, you can go back in time and you can look at what happened in 2013 when Jupiter went through Cancer 12 years ago. And you might notice that that was a year where a relationship ended and you met somebody new, or somebody significant came into your life, but maybe they didn't stay. And I think it's going to be different this go round, because as we're getting into the fall this year, not only will Jupiter be lighting up your relationship house, but it's going to trine your Saturn. So you've got growth in relationships, harmonizing with commitment. And it's also going to, in the fall, trine transit Saturn, which is you and your sun. And it means that really what you need is like, you know, Cancer type people. Now, I'm not saying you have to be with a Cancer. Maybe you meet somebody who's got a Cancer moon, or they've got a Cancer rising, or they have a bunch of planets in their 4th house. They're going to have that kind of vibe to them. It could also be somebody that you meet unexpectedly through family, or you meet them while you're traveling, or, you know, it comes through some kind of like connection that you have through another person, right? 7th house. But you need somebody who's going to be more that kind of nurturing Cancerian type of energy. And if we look at this like in sequential order, you know, you're going to have some really great transits, I think, between now and the beginning of the year. And then even next year, Jupiter is going to continue to go through, you know, Cancer into the summer. And then 2026 and 2027, Jupiter is going to be conjunct your moon. And the 8th house is going to be more about merger. So there's definitely going to be this theme of meeting people this year, connecting, focusing on like connection and communication. And I feel like that's really going to like ramp up starting with eclipse season. So the other thing that I would focus on is that when you have, let's look at the new moon again. The new moon's doing some stuff to your Venus. So the new moon is in your 8th house, which is about intimacy. It's in opposition to your Venus, which is about kind of like pleasure. In your case, 2nd house could be about money. And you're currently experiencing Uranus square your Venus. okay? So when the new moon comes in, it's making Uranus the focal point in your 5th house of a square between the new moon and Venus. In your 5th house, it means that you're going to start maybe dating or doing new hobbies. So there could be some like unconventional people that you're meeting that's kind of like outside of the typical person that you would date. And when Uranus squares Venus, it's like there is some restlessness in relationships, or you feel like you need something new, and it's an opening square. Like with Uranus in your 5th house, because it rules your 2nd, I would be investing myself in hobbies or routines or things that would make it more likely that I would meet someone. And obviously relationships can be kind of tricky because you got Venus and you got the moon in the 8th in opposition to Venus. But like I would say 5th house is, you know, places where you could go and eat and also have entertainment, right? Taurus. So I think of like theatrical stuff where there's like dinner and drinks, or like, you know, comedy, or maybe there's going to be performances or theater. I would consider, especially Uranus and Gemini, like going and doing trivia or doing like bingo. I know that sounds so super crazy, but you might meet somebody doing that. Especially with Uranus square your Venus. It's trying to get you to kind of break up your routine or your habits and do something different and make it more so likely that you're going to meet like a new or unconventional person. And then the next, obviously the solar eclipse. We'll have the lunar eclipse that's going to be in your 2nd house, which is the same sign as Saturn, trining Jupiter. That's also good for relationships around September 7th. It's also good for money. And then this is the one that you're going to be reassessing at the end of September on the 21st, where you have a solar eclipse in opposition to your sun. And that is relational. It can bring somebody in. Here's the moon. But it could bring somebody in that's like at a distance, or they're culturally different, or they're far away. Okay, so most people think about dating throughout school. Dating only became possible in my life in 2013 when I was 29. No, not super crazy at all. My last big work crush was related to public, there you go, pub trivia. So something like this makes me feel like if you're creating a little bit more variety over the like next couple of weeks in your kind of like your 5th house, so anything to do with like extracurriculars and stuff outside of work, there's a likelihood that there could be somebody that can come in. And as for, you know, when that happens, I would say you're going to have to give this new moon at minimum, you know, about a month or two to see if something's going to transpire. But I know that a lot of Capricorn risings are going to end up in a pretty significant relationship this year because Jupiter's in the 7th and is trining Saturn. What it comes down to for you is communication. And I would say the other way to play this is the 3rd house, where you're meeting people locally. Maybe you're doing some out-of-town trips. Maybe there is a sense of you trying to meet people on apps. And they say that you always meet people where your 7th house lord is. Well, your 7th house lord is in the 8th house, so you meet them when you're going through a pretty dramatic change or transformation, you or them. It can be you meet somebody as they're getting out of a relationship, Leo, or there is some kind of, you know, major change or transformation going on for you emotionally or with your home. And then it's at 24. So I would be looking for signs that are like Scorpio, Pisces, and Leo, because it's in the 8th house, Scorpio, Pisces, it's at 24, Leo, it's in the sign of Leo. You are likely going to find somebody that's going to have one or all of those placements in their big 3, or there's going to be some kind of connection to some of those like archetypal themes in their chart. And then obviously, you know, Venus hitting your moon is also going to be probably one of the bigger ones. So when Venus hits your moon, when Mercury hits your moon, those are going to be the transits that you're gonna possibly see an opportunity to meet someone. Even Caps occasionally get tired of work. Pub trivia guy was a Scorpio Leo. Yeah, so those are the types of people that you bring in because of the placement of your moon. And in recent years, like Uranus has been squaring your moon. You were born with, you know, moon square Mars and also moon square Saturn to some extent. So that does kind of materialize as, okay, well, what are we doing? You know, are we in the friend zone? Or are we doing something? And certainly I would say, you know, you're going to have a lot better luck now that Uranus is no longer squaring your moon. Even Chiron squares your moon. So Mars in opposition to Chiron square the moon. Do you find that there's like people that you meet who are still going back and forth and having drama in relationships, or people who have kids, Leo, or people who you're kind of seeing casually or dating, and then it's just like they have other people? Because the 11th house deals with like the lovers of other people or other people who aren't entirely sure of what they want. It's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. Let me see one other thing here. So you're 41 now. You're going to turn 42 next year in March. Okay, bingo. That's the opposition between the 11th and the 5th house. That's a nightmare. One thing that I'll tell you is, like, as you get into your birthday next year, when you go into your annual perfection year 7, you know, when you're 18, when you're 30, when you're 42, these are the years that you have a big turning point with a relationship. And at least Jupiter will be in your house, you know, for another 4 months after you have your birthday next year. So really, you know, next year is going to be, I think, the turning point personally. But you got to be careful here with, like, the moon in the 8th house squaring Mars. It's like, I'm not going to say you can't date people who have kids. Mars and Scorpio in the 11th house means they might have children, or maybe, okay, they've been married and they've been divorced, but there's, like, challenges and issues that kind of come with trusting and vulnerability and, like, commitment. That's what I meant earlier when I said accepting less, all married. Well, anybody who has, like, Venus in the 8th house, or Venus-Pluto aspects to the 8th house Lord, or, you know, 7th house ruler in the 8th house. I mean, there's always, like, a sense of there being some kind of secrets, you know, revolving around relationships. And the square to Saturn and Mars in your 11th is, like, you'll date people who are like, well, I'm married, but, you know, we're together for financial reasons, or, you know, like, she's going to take the kids from me, or, you know, we're legally married, but we're not really together, we're separate. Like, there's always something there, and it's always going to be about, like, financial stuff because it's in Scorpio and Taurus, and something that's kind of, like, binding, and then, you know, justifying them being like, well, it's kind of a dead relationship, so I'm looking for a girlfriend, right? Leo. So that's the stuff that you're going to kind of see. But if you want something that's solid and you want stability, Uranus squaring your Venus is saying, like, you can now really kind of disrupt the way that you've been dating. And the North Node is going to be coming into conjunction with, you know, Venus next year, which could definitely give you a lot more stability in your relationships as well. So I think I would say to any Pisces, you know, rising, or Pisces sun in particular, like, now is the time, and you guys will see this over the next month or two with the eclipses, to basically be like, if you really want a relationship, you have to be super committed, and you have to be seeing very clearly. Saturn and Neptune coming back into your sign is going to put on those rose-colored glasses, and we can kind of, like, idealize people, or we could feel like a victim of what's going on in relationships. But I think a lot of Pisces are kind of, like, clearing that out, and they're not, like, settling for less. And especially after this eclipse, you're going to see that. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Keep me updated, Rosie. Let me know what happens. All right, if you guys are still tuning in, the queue is still open. So if you want to get in for a reading, scan the QR code. Make sure you put in your time, date of birth, and your location so I can read your chart. All right, I think I got all my level 3 people, or I keep saying 3, level 4. All right, let's move on down my list here. We are going to speak with the citrus farm. Then we're going to be talking to Lulwa. Then we're going to be talking to Winnie. Okay, so if any of you guys hear me, you're on deck. What's up, citrus farm? What's going on, girl? All right, so she says, and I laughed when I read this because I remember your reading. She said, "Hi, Candace. Last time you advised me not to travel. The airline I would have booked with just went on strike, and I would have lost a lot of money had I booked that trip. Thank you. My question is, I'm at a crossroads with my career and public image. I'm pursuing a degree to switch careers while working a job I really don't like. I changed departments, and it feels like I'm starting from the bottom again, feeling incompetent in a job that I was comfortable with just last year. I sense shakeups on the horizon with the 10th house activity touching my native angular placements, but are these shakeups for the better or for the worst?" All right. Well, the truth is to be honest with you, I've all week long, I've had Sag risings all week. I see good and bad as being relative. Okay. So it's not just, well, I have South Node eclipses going through my 10th house, so therefore I'm going to lose my job or something is going to end. Not necessarily. The universe is giving you a double dose of Virgo energy. And what does Virgo energy want to do? It wants to get things in order. So we want to go at it from that perspective. So what's working in your favor is that yes, the solar eclipse is going to be in your 10th house next month. So that's definitely something to think about. But girl, you got a lot of Capricorn. So it's going to trine a bunch of your Capricorn stuff, which in theory, any new opportunities or job moves or anything that transpires from that new moon or solar eclipse is going to bring you more second house Capricorn things. Financial stability, responsibility, financial security, long-term goals, right? All of that stuff. So keep that in mind. The first new moon, which is the one taking place tomorrow, is going to be happening in your 9th house. I take that back. Your houses are kind of skewed. So hold on a second. So we've got 7, 8. So technically it's your 8th house. So taking the Placidus 8th house and the whole sign 10th house changes and transformations at work. Now it's right on top of your Mars, which I think is actually good because it's basically saying that you're like, all right, I am sensing that there's going to be some swift changes and stuff that's going to be happening. And because the eclipse is conjunct your Mars, which is your 12th house, which is kind of your spidey senses, and it's also connected to groups of people, it's possible that over the next month, 8th house, you hear there's budgeting changes at work, there's staff changes at work. Maybe you're feeling a little restless or feeling uneasy and you're just wanting to kind of get this over with, and you could be a little impatient. That's the one thing I would say to watch out for. It is squaring Uranus, which is in your 5th, which is really trying to get you to think about taking chances when it comes to making a change with your career. And so I noted that you said that, so that's good. The positive is that as a Capricorn sun, it's within an 8-degree trine to your sun. So I don't see this as being a bad thing, but I'm just trying to approach this new moon by being like, how can I get stuff in order now and be willing to make the necessary changes and be flexible with the mutable squares before we get to next month. And like, honestly, guys, that solar eclipse sucks. Okay, I try to be really positive, but like, I don't really see a lot of positivity personally from the solar eclipse. This is like, you can either get with the change with this new moon that's going to square Uranus, or you can face some kind of challenging limitation and you can be put in a position where you have to then suddenly make a critical change. Why? It's at 29 degrees. That's drama. Also, it's opposing Saturn, which means we're going to go, we got to do this. We got to do this now. And then we're going to go, I would do this, but that's in the way. So for you, it's going to be, well, I do want to take a new job, or I do want to go into a new department, or I do want to kind of, go up in ranks. But, emotionally with Saturn and Neptune in your 4th house, you're like, I'm feeling heavy, or I'm feeling defeated, or, I'm sad, or I'm dealing with family stuff. Like there can definitely be this feeling of being stretched very thin, right? That's kind of the interpretation that I have looking at this. The other thing is that, Saturn for you represents money and communication. So there can be the sense of you being like, I'm working this job and I'm kind of getting emotionally flustered and kind of frustrated because I'm not really feeling like people are listening to me. Solar eclipses bring action. Lunar eclipses bring emotional changes. So it's basically saying that you can try to make changes and like adapt to what's going on at work over the next month. Maybe you're trying to do some training. Maybe you're doing some shadowing. Maybe you're really focusing on that square to Uranus. That's like, I'm trying to adjust and I'm trying to kind of be receptive to making these changes. And also it's the changes with work relationships, maybe working with new people or new departments. And then you get to this one and the solar eclipse is going to sit right on top of your Chiron, which is definitely, it's going to highlight some of the insecurities that you have professionally at work, or where you kind of feel like the odd man out. And the opposition to Saturn makes me feel like you're going to go, all right, well, I'm feeling like maybe I am willing to look for a new job. That new job search might happen at any point over the next 6 months. Just because we have a solar eclipse does not mean, okay, September 21st, there's going to be a massive layoff for you. Not necessarily. I think if we kind of zoom out, we look at this from a collective standpoint. Virgo is jobs, right? And the service industry, and it's about health, and it's about anything connecting to like servants and people who help people. The opposition to Saturn retrograde means that things are actually breaking down, that because we're going to see so many changes happening with leadership, lack of direction, not having clarity. We're going to have a bunch of immigration stuff that's going to happen over the next 6 months. What do you think that's going to do to the labor market? What do you think that's going to do to the jobs when we've got a bunch of people now that suddenly, don't have jobs, or they're having to leave the country, or suddenly, they're hearing, hey, stocks aren't performing well, businesses aren't performing well. Now we're having layoffs. So I guarantee you guys one thing, this particular solar eclipse in September is going to start a cascade of, on one hand, a lot of people that are going to be leaving the job market for whatever reasons. And then we're also going to see that there is going to be some major changes revolving around health, kind of civil servants, government jobs, things like that. So if you work a government job, maybe you can have some issues. And then the positive is that unlike the new moon in Virgo, which was squaring Uranus and in conjunct Pluto, we have a solar eclipse in Virgo that's trining Pluto and also Uranus. So it's a grand air trine that's like, okay, if you've been preparing for this change all month, the change is going to come a little bit easier under this solar eclipse. So long story short, outside of these things, the other thing we have to think about is Mercury actually rules your 10th house of career. Mercury's trining Pluto. Mercury's also trining Uranus. So there could be a new announcement about a manager, about some kind of leadership at work. There could be a new job opportunity for you that comes from a friend, or somebody is saying, hey, come and work for our department, or come and work for this team. Maybe you're making friends at work, right? So I actually really feel like this is a solar eclipse that is just, it's so much of like a wild card. Like new moons are generally about new opportunities, but it's a south node eclipse, which means that we have to look at the past before we move forward. And it's also opposing Saturn, which is saying, okay, with a chart like this, I've told a lot of my Sag risings, look for jobs in other areas. If you don't like where you're working, start hitting the internet, update your resume, start looking for jobs that could be in neighboring areas. Maybe if you're considering or you're open to moving or relocating, if you're looking for a job that could be also working from home, or something that's going to allow you to kind of have like a hybrid schedule where you can kind of do some work at home or some work in an office space. And yeah, definitely where you're working is going to feel, it's going to be impacted by what's going on with you at home. And you'll see that manifest basically within 6 months' time. Watch. Next eclipse comes in next year. So when this becomes a full moon, lunar eclipse in Virgo, the ruler is retrograde in your 4th house. So it could take 6 months, but it could mean that you're like, well, now I'm actually moving and now I'm changing jobs. So it may not be right away. It might actually take some time. But in terms of the job change, watch closer to the solar eclipse at the end of September. Watch closer to the full moon in, maybe Taurus or Gemini. That might be some times where you see some changes going there as well. But you actually have some pretty decent transits later this year that makes me feel like actually your work and your job is going to be okay. You have like a big boost in money-making opportunities coming in December. Venus, Sun, Mars, Mercury, all these planets are going to go through Capricorn in your whole sign 2nd house of money, and it's going to trine your midheaven. So even if there is like a change that happens in September, I think ultimately it's going to bring you something that's going to be pretty good. I don't think it's going to be something negative. And Jupiter is in opposition to your Mercury all year. So this means that, you'll have the support financially from other people, or, you would have savings, or you'd have family money, or other things that would support you in the off chance if there was a brief break. And also it gives you a lot of negotiating room to negotiate what could ultimately be better benefits and probably even a better salary sometime later in the year, right? So hopefully that's kind of helpful for you, giving you some insight. We're going to call last call in about 3.5 minutes. So if you guys want to get in the queue, get in the queue. We've got Lulwa, Winnie, and then Yulia all on deck. What's up, Lulwa? January 13, 99, Taurus rising, Sun and Moon in Cancer. Wow, look at you. God's favorite, Jupiter over all of your Cancer stuff right now. That's a great transit for you. All right, let's see what she has to say. She goes, astrology question. I have casually been getting to know my coworker, and he is going through some personal things currently, and I'd like to know, when will things get better for us? Thanks in advance. All right, well, in a nutshell, relationships and you know, and also work, I guess work associates are two different things. So people you work with is going to be much more tied to your 6th house, ruled by Venus. Obviously you have Mars there. And then also relationships is going to be your 7th house, which is ruled by Mars and also Pluto. So when I look at what's kind of going on with your natal Venus, there's a couple of different reasons why I would assume there's something kind of going on, you know, with your coworker and him going through some stuff. First things first, your relationship that you have with your coworkers is actually connected to your 12th house, ruled by Mars. So just from like a whole sign perspective, something to think about is like Saturn and Neptune are in your 12th house. So it can mean that there is some confusion or maybe some limitations or some stops and starts going on with the relationship that you have to your coworker. So that's number one. Number two is recently we've also seen your relationship planet Mars going through your work zone, and it's been opposing Saturn and Neptune. So there's been this sense of being like, I wish there was something I can do. They're going through it. Maybe they're kind of frustrated. They're retreating a little bit, or maybe you're feeling that they're like a little indecisive in terms of like where your guys' relationship is going. And then I think the icing on the cake is Pluto, your 7th house lord, is squaring Mars, which rules relationships in the house of coworkers. And it's also coming into a square with Jupiter, which is bringing up a lot of emotions. So it's not like I can just say to you like, oh, it's going to get better in like a week or two, because I don't actually think that's the case. I think as long as Pluto is within 0 to 3 degrees, because it's triggering this square between Mars and Jupiter, you're going to see that there is going to be some kind of tension or something that's kind of going on in the room, revolving around what he's dealing with and whether or not your guys' relationship can actually evolve. Okay. And that's not really going to fade until you're getting to, you know, the beginning of next year. So Pluto will continue to stay around that like 1 to 3 degrees until about February, and then it's going to start moving out of that square. Now your relationships in general, though, is going to be a combination of Mars and Pluto. So not only are they squaring, but I think about an opportunity for you to reassess where you stand in your relationship and be like, hey, like, what are we doing? What's going on? When you have Mercury turn retrograde in your 7th of relationships, giving you the opportunity to get clarity about where you're standing with another person, Mercury is going to retrograde and it's going to conjunct Mars, which means hopefully you guys can have a little bit of like a heart-to-heart, you know, chat about where you're at, what's changing, if you guys can be moving forward together in mid-November, okay? And Pluto is about what needs to change. Mars is going to be your partner. Mercury is going to be about your kind of romantic feelings. Thankfully, you know, Venus and Mars are going to be conjunct at the time. So it makes me feel like, you know, maybe there's a sense of reassessing and being like, what have we been doing? What's going on? You know, are we doing something more? Equally, Scorpio season, I think, is going to be good for you as, you know, Taurus rising, because you're going to see all these planets going through your 7th house where you can reconnect and reassess with relationships. And it's going to trine Jupiter in your 3rd house. So you can get to the heart of, you know, how to get closer, what's been wrong, where there's been some kind of blockages or where they've been going through some issues. And it's also going to trine Saturn, which could provide you some like long-standing, you know, stability. Obviously, a lot of it's also going to depend on what's going on with his chart, what's happening in his chart. So I can only tell you so much. You also have, you know, Uranus that's going to be squaring your natal Venus in Virgo. So it's making you a little restless when it comes to love and relationships and whether or not you feel safe or if you're feeling valued. The good thing is that the new moon's going to be right on top of your Venus. So like as a Taurus rising, you're going to hear, okay, Taurus, you know, you have a new moon that's going to be in your 5th house, so you can focus on, you know, changes in relationships and whether or not, you know, you're experimenting with dating new people, or if you feel safe in an existing partnership, or if you're wanting to meet somebody new. And then the next one is going to be the solar eclipse, which is also bringing your attention to relationships. And it's actually going to put Mars, I believe, at 29 degrees of Libra, which is going to be in your 6th. So the solar eclipse could also give you some insight and info as to whether or not this relationship is going to move forward as well. Mars at 29 degrees of Libra, I mean,
in my opinion, that's like the degree that is about divorce, right? So a lot of people are going to be divorcing their jobs. They're going to be talking about separating with partners. There's going to be a lot of legal issues and imbalances. But I think for you, it could be kind of showing you like, all right, what direction are things going with me and my coworker? Mars rules that. So I don't know what he's dealing with, or if there's like legal issues going on, or, still trying to overcome or work through issues of the past relationship. Certainly the 6 can represent like their subconscious, right? It's 12th to the 7th. But at least with that solar eclipse, you're having like your Venus return. So it can mean that both the new moon and the solar eclipse in Virgo is helping you kind of hit restart when it comes to relationships and dating, and making room for you being able to kind of connect to somebody a little bit more deeply and having better communication, because obviously it's sextiling Jupiter in your sign. So hopefully that's helpful, giving you some insight. I hope things get better for your coworker and you. What's up, CZ? Oh, there you are. I was answering your question earlier. Honestly, I really recommend having the time. It's going to be more accurate if you have the time. We can do it, but because I like to look at the charts and flip them back and forth and see how your chart works with their chart and vice versa, it would be ideal to have the ascendant. So we would recommend getting the time. All right, so we've got Winnie, Yulia, and then Dena. Moving down my list here. Thank you guys for your patience. And readings are now closed, so if I miss you, I'll catch you guys next week for tarot. All right, Winnie says, hey Candace, March 17th, 1992 in the Philippines. She says, anything I need to know about this double dose of new moons? In 2024, the eclipse and the 2 full moons in Capricorn brought a lot of change, big endings and big new beginnings. What you predicted last fall eclipse happened. I noticed that moons like this tend to affect me more. I do resonate more with a Cancer rising. Thank you for guiding me. Well, I appreciate it. All right, so I hear you on that. You're like minutes away from being a Cancer rising, but something that I would say is that even though those horoscopes are going to be probably pretty wildly accurate for you, I do recommend listening and always paying attention when there's Mercury transits going on, okay? Because you're still a Mercury ruled chart. So like, for example, next year when Saturn comes into conjunction with your Mercury, or the Mercury retrograde we just had in Leo, the next one that we're going to have in Sagittarius, and so on, still know what's going on with Mercury, because that's going to be significant for you. Maybe the Capricorn moons were very prominent, and for those of you guys who are kind of like, what is she talking about? I think it was like last year we had one that was at 0 and one that was at 29, okay? Why was that so significant for you? Well, I think because look at your ascendant, it's at 29. So even if you had a 29-degree Capricorn, full moon or new moon, I don't remember which one it was, it's going to in conjunct and quincunx your ascendant, which is at a critical degree. And it's going to represent Capricorn, major change, major transformation, right? That's pushing you to change your mind, change the way you communicate, move, all of that stuff. So that's why I think these 0 and 29 degrees affect you so significantly. And 29 degrees is a critical turning point. So if you have like your ascendant or your midheaven at those degrees, it basically means that there's a lot of things that you're having to kind of evolve and kind of wrap up, especially if you perceive the ascendant as your perspective. A lot of people say, well, it's how you look and it's, the mask that you wear, maybe, but I really feel like the ascendant is more what you came into this lifetime to like embody. So 29 degree, like Gemini rising is like the most questions, the most curious, the most chatty, the most information, the most flexible, kind of mobile. You're getting your ass kicked this year, sorry to say, but you are, because you have Saturn and Neptune that's dancing around this 29 degrees of Pisces, okay? And when it's up there at the 10th, in the 10th house, it's in an angular house. So think of this as the apex of a square to your ascendant, which is who you are, and your descendant, which is who other people are. And Saturn and Neptune create issues of visibility, commitment, feeling unsure, lack of boundaries. Maybe there is something that's concluding or finishing up, right, Pisces, about, in your case, your professional life that's going to change the way that you perceive yourself and other people. Anyway, the double dose of the new moons, you know, all I can say is that clearly the universe just wants us to clean out the closet. That's what I keep telling myself, and I'm going to use it to clean out closets. The first new moon is going to be actually pretty fairly close to your natal moon, and it's also going to sextile your ascendant. So it's really great for communications, media, traveling, anything connecting to just getting kind of like active and being mobile. It's just a little frustrating that it's going to square Uranus. So from a whole sign perspective, okay, it would be like, where are Gemini risings needing to make some big changes on the home front? That could mean rearranging your furniture, moving, organization, cleaning. And it might mean that suddenly you're like, I want to move to a new city, or I want to, you know, redecorate my house, because it's going to create some of that tension because of Uranus. And then 2, when the new moon comes in, it's also opposing your Venus. So it means that there is this longing to travel, connect, learn, and like it's playing off of this restlessness in the 12th house as well, where you might be feeling like you want to learn something or go somewhere. The most interesting thing to me, and I'm going to keep saying it over and over, so I feel like I'm like, you know, beat like a broken record, but is that it in conjunction quincunxes Saturn and Neptune and also Pluto. So really what it highlights for you is communication when it comes to, you know, embracing change, communication when it comes to opening up to, you know, new ways of working or new ways of connecting with people. Obviously, if you're interested in making more money, right? The moon rules your money. This is about you going like, am I applying for jobs? Am I sprucing up a website or a resume? Am I changing the way that I'm thinking about work? Like that kind of stuff, right? So it's setting that kind of emotion before you get to the second one, which will be obviously end of next month, which will totally be in your 4th house. So then you really can see the effects of the, you know, solar eclipse taking action at home. But it's at 29 degrees. So this one's actually going to be a lot harder for you to navigate, because it's going to square your ascendant. So it's going to put pressure on, you know, just you in general, how you're thinking, how you're moving, how you're breathing. Definitely breath work exercises can be helpful. However, that new moon's going to put Venus on your moon. So it can actually bring you a new opportunity when it comes to travel, relationships with family, moving within 6 months. It doesn't have to happen immediately. What's frustrating is that it's going to oppose your sun, and it's also going to oppose Saturn. I look at this and I'm like, well, you know, similar to Sag risings, it's a lot of like, I'm getting pulled between work and home. What am I supposed to do? Well, the North Node in Saturn says you're supposed to be working, focusing on your career, being willing to, you know, detach yourself from family drama, you know, old ways of living, old ways of feeling, getting out of the house, being active. And I think Venus on your moon is going to be something that's going to kind of smooth some of this stuff over. But you know, Pisces in general, these eclipses are about your relationship to someone or something. So for all we know, it could be your family, and where you're like, oh my God, there's suddenly, you know, more demands going on with my family or who I'm living with or what's going on with my extended relatives, in comparison to Saturn on your sun, where you're like, I am really focused on my career right now, or there's like a lot of me having to be out in the world and emotionally I can't really deal with this. Or because there's so many changes going on in your private life or your family that you're throwing yourself into work, right? I think you'll like the September 7th eclipse better. I think as a Gemini rising, the eclipse in your 10th house and the trine to Jupiter in your 2nd is a little bit more fortuitous for work changes and also money. So that's something you've been working towards for, you know, the better part of like the last 6 months. And it's also going to trine your natal Pluto. So that's going to be a really nice eclipse. It's just the second one. I think that the solar eclipse in Virgo is probably going to be one of the more potent events in all of 2025, personally. If you really look at the aspects and if you look at what it means with the opposition to Saturn, things are going to start breaking down and collapsing. We're going to start seeing things that are going to start, especially with leadership, stuff that's connected to water, issues with storms, problems with flooding. Virgo and Pisces deals with health. So we're also going to see a lot of the storylines revolving around the narratives of what's been happening for the last couple of years start to crumble. We may also simultaneously start to see other really bad respiratory issues and other things that are going to be kind of like coming up over the next couple of weeks. So everybody's got to really take care of their immune system. But in your case, it's more cleaning out the house, getting things in order, you know, making your life feel a little like less complicated and a little bit more simplified, so you can show up and do some of the things that you want to be doing in a professional sense. And obviously things will improve, I think, a great deal after the eclipse season, but especially as we're getting into the beginning of 2026, when Saturn and Neptune are no longer in a square to your ascendant or your descendant. Once we get them into Aries, it's going to start kind of smoothing over a little bit better, and at least you'll be out of some of these squares. You're just going to have to deal with the South Node going through your Jupiter and also your Moon. But I bet you dollars to donuts, at some point inevitably, while Saturn hits your Mercury and the South Node hits your Moon, you will move, okay? Because those are all the triggers. Eclipses in the 4th house, South Node on the Moon, Saturn on the fourth house ruler. Something's going to change here. And I don't know if you're moving for work or if you're scaling, you know, away from one place of living because you want to relocate to another one, but something's going to change with your living situation. Anyway, I hope that that's helpful for you, Winnie. Definitely circle back and let me know what's going on. Ashley says, we're all getting our asses kicked. You guys haven't seen nothing yet, okay? Careful what you say, because next month things are gonna get, we're all gonna be like frogs in like the pot. We're not gonna realize it's boiling until it's boiling. And like that slingshot effect of like the Saturn, Neptune in opposition to the solar eclipse. A lot of people are gonna go, wait, I thought we took care of this. And then we're gonna realize it's like clown world. Like Saturn and Neptune in Aries is like, Saturn and Neptune in Pisces is like, it's like a circus. So it's the grand finale. Things are definitely going to be a little more, I think, stable next year. We'll see. Keep saying that every year, but we'll see. All right, we've got Yulia, then Dena, and then Melissa. All right, so Miss Yulia, January 3rd, 86. Let's see what she says. All right. Hi, Candace. This year has been very eventful for me. I moved across the country. I quit my job twice, and now I'm in my new housewife era, which is very unusual for me. I'm a career-driven Capricorn after all. Anyway, with the eclipse season coming up, I just want to know what shall I focus on for the remainder of this year? Thanks in advance. I love that for you, housewife life. Maybe it's been a lot of the retrogrades in your 4th house, huh? Maybe. All right, so what do we focus on for the rest of the year? Well, you know me, I'm going to kind of prioritize what's going on with Venus, okay? So first of all, Venus is natally in Capricorn. Obviously, you got a ton of planets in Capricorn, kind of tied to your 8th house. So there is going to be this theme throughout your life of change and transformation when it comes to your career, your relationships, and your status, okay? What I would focus on is a combination of your annual perfection, Time Lord. So until January, because next year you're going to turn 40, you're focusing on Leo transits and also the sun. So that means that we're looking at the solar eclipse that's going to happen in Virgo at the end of September, the most recent Mercury retrograde that's been happening in your 4th house. And what is the 4th house? The home. Okay, so why have you been spending more time at home? A Mars retrograde there, Mercury retrograde there, solar eclipses there, so on and so forth. And obviously Venus is tied to the 8th house, which means your career can change as a result of support and other connections with partners' money, 8th house. So the transits to the sun will become pretty prominent right around your birthday. But for right now, I would say while the sun is still going through your 4th house, and Mercury is going to go through your 4th house, and Venus is going to go through your 4th house, I would say this to any Taurus rising. Creating a beautiful home space, focusing on family gatherings, really feeling like you're getting your space in order and it feels comfortable and beautiful and like you can entertain and vibrant, I would be focusing on that until Venus leaves your 4th house. So that's basically going to be until about the 2nd half of September, okay? At that point in time, I would also want to let you know that there is going to be a solar eclipse that's going to happen in your 5th, which could definitely be a precursor of pregnancy, especially with Venus going into the 5th house around the time of the solar eclipse. I don't know if that's something you're trying to do. If you do, great, then, you know, it's very possible. If you don't, then you've been forewarned. But that solar eclipse is going to be in your 5th house of personal joys, and it's going to oppose Saturn in your 11th of friends and other people. So there's a sense of you going, how can I dig into what's going to make me happy? Hobbies, things that you enjoy doing, crafting. You know, Virgo in the 5th house is like, in order for you to have fun or enjoy yourself or have a hobby, it's got to be something that is kind of like inquisitive, or it requires some kind of skills, or you have to use your hands, or it requires like a lot of like mental stimulation to enjoy doing it. So with Venus going in the 5th, it's like, you know, creative writing, right? Things that are going to be connected to blogging or podcasting or learning or anything connecting to creativity and health. Hobbies that include cooking or gardening or anything connecting with crystals or earth elements could also be another theme. As a Capricorn, you'll like that. And then the other transits you're also going to want to be watching is going to be right before your birthday, when there is going to be a pretty significant stellium happening in Capricorn. So, you know, Mars, Venus, Mercury, the sun, they're all going to be coming together, going over your sun and going into your 9th house. So it's possible that money's looking really good at the end of the year. You may not be working, but maybe investments that you've made are paying off. Maybe your partner is going to be, you know, incredibly generous with you. Maybe you're going to be planning like a beautiful, you know, trip, or doing some kind of traveling right around the end of December into the beginning of January. In fact, I would recommend it big time, especially knowing that this can be a wonderful time to kind of get away for the holidays. And also you will be going into what's going to be an annual perfection, year 5, which is about being creative, having fun, enjoying yourself. And it's going to put the 5th house lord in the 9th. So if you're down to travel around the holidays, I would say consider doing it. If not, then, you know, that can be a time where you're planning something. And then the other thing that I like that's also kind of going on in your chart right now is you are having Uranus starting to come into a trine with your moon, which is also supporting kind of making some changes in your hobbies and your routines, your day-to-day routine as a result of a partner, Libra. And Pluto's coming into a trine with your moon, like some really nice aspects that you have. Just because you don't have a quote unquote traditional career that you're working on right now doesn't mean that there can't be things that you enjoy doing that could manifest or turn into something that could be a passion project, that could be a business. And I think you have some time. You know, Pluto has not gone into your 10th house yet. That will very likely over the next couple of years be a turning point should you decide that you really want to focus on your career again. And there will be North Node eclipses happening starting in February of 2026. That's also going to be connected to Aquarius, which could also be pointing or kind of suggesting that there is going to be opportunities for you to get back into the swing of focusing on your career should you decide to do that. So that won't start kind of happening until down the road, closer to February of next year. And usually when we see a solar eclipse there, we do want to throw ourselves into something. It is squaring Uranus, so you might kind of feel like, okay, I need a change. Maybe I am ready to kind of get back and to start doing something. But anything that you're going to be working on, I think, is going to be more connected to something that you really enjoy, right? And Mars is conjunct Jupiter, so it can also be like a partnership or something you're doing in collaboration with your spouse. Oh, and you are planning a birthday trip this year. Good. End of December into January, great time to be traveling. You've got all those planets going into your 9th house. I think it's a really good time. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. I would really encourage you to start up a new hobby or something that you enjoy doing around this eclipse. And it's not going to be something you're doing with friends because it's going to oppose Saturn. It's something you want to personally do outside of some of your kind of social relationships. But enjoy your house wifing. I hope it's fun for you. All right, we've got Dena, Melissa, and then Rachel. What's up, Dena? I was like, oh, there she is when I saw your name pop up. What's going on, girl? Dena is May 15th, 87, Libra rising, Sun in Taurus, and Moon in Sagittarius. What's up, Melissa? Did we get you in before we called last call? I did not see you. Let me see. I'll have to see if are you a member or did you pay for a reading? I'll do an updated list for you guys in a second and let you guys know who I have, who got in. All right, so Dena says, I'm a lawyer and content creator. I started applying to firms which will give me significantly more money and opportunity than the one I'm currently at. My question is, when will the stars align for me to actually make this move to a new firm? So far, I'm just in the application process. Well, I would say we need to see something going on with your moon because the moon rules your 10th house of career, first of all. So obviously your natal moon is in Sagittarius, and you know, Saturn's no longer squaring that, so that's good. The North and the South node have recently been squaring the moon, which is conjunct Saturn, where you're like, I need to be getting paid more to practice law. And what's positive is, as a Libra rising, Venus is about to go into your 10th house. So this is like the once a year transit where you have the opportunity to get more recognition. I think with Venus going into your 10th house and coming into a trine with Saturn around August 25th is good. Like interviews, applications, looking for jobs, I would focus on that. You might unexpectedly, with Moon Mars, have somebody reach out to you that's wanting to work with you. And then you're also going to see down the road that Mars will come into Scorpio and it will trine Saturn and it will trine Jupiter. So this is a really strong money-making period, the end of October going into November, as all these planets are coming into Scorpio, which is about making money from other people. Trines Jupiter, which is about law and also media, by the way, communications and contracts. So I don't think it could be contractual law. And then this is all going to trine Saturn and Neptune, which is connecting to your whole sign, 6th house of work. I honestly could see you doing both things and being successful doing both things. Ironically, if you're a Libra rising that's involved in law, having Jupiter go through your 10th house, it means that you may be able to do some kind of work remotely from home. You're going to get more recognition. You're going to be heard. And then on the flip side, if you're doing something involving education or media, you're also going to see that there is going to be some kind of sense of there being growth in your career. The other thing I think about is, like, as a Libra rising, you're getting ready to have a lunar eclipse on September 7th. Now, you know me, I use Placidus, but from whole sign, I could see like a full moon Pisces eclipse in your 6th as being like, oh, I, suddenly have a job, or there's a new routine, or there's something I'm kind of, getting focused on, and it's going to trine Jupiter in your whole sign 10th. So September 7th, give or take a couple of days or even up to a week on each side, that could be that you're finding out that you're starting a new job. And then also, I would say, as you're getting into October and November, it looks like you're going to start making more money. So that's going to be positive. But money is ruled by Mars, and so this year, and you're still having it for the next couple of months, Saturn and Neptune in your work zone is squaring Saturn in your money zone, Moon in your money zone, and it's also squaring Mars in Gemini. So like there's this sense of, I think a lot of Libra risings feel like this, just giving with work, right? That's how it was when Saturn and Neptune were in Pisces. It's coming back again, and it's pressuring you, and it's making you go, well, where am I spending all of my time? And am I spending my time at jobs where I'm not making enough money? And like, what am I supposed to do? And it will ease up once Saturn and Neptune go back into Aries at the beginning of next year. I would look at September as being the first opening or opportunity for you to bring in a new job, but be very careful with settling for something that you feel like is just going to be good enough. Because as it sits at those degrees and it's squaring some of your Gemini and your Sag placements, you may feel like you're just being drained, or that you're working with people that aren't competent, or that, your time or your energy could be spent doing other things that you would actually enjoy more. And then next year, Jupiter will officially come into your 10th house of career. And it's looking pretty sweet, especially as you're getting to like May and June on of 2026. And this is where your chart's kind of like a Scorpio rising, where then Jupiter fully goes into your 10th house of career and it's trining Saturn. So it's safe to say that a year from now, I think you are going to feel more fulfilled in your job. I think that you're also probably going to be doing something new or something different. And there's going to be more support that's going to be going on in relationships and stuff as well, which I think is definitely going to make this chart a little bit easier to kind of like manage and navigate. But Those are the times that I would be most focused. And then also, as a Sag, Moon, Uranus, Saturn, you're going to have another like reassessment of your finances. That's going to be happening when Mercury turns retrograde in the fall. So kind of like mid-November, definitely Mercury going retrograde in the second house is like, okay, you know, if I haven't been feeling like I've been getting paid enough, this is where suddenly the tide can turn. There can be like a shift. And it can be bringing money in that you didn't anticipate bringing in. And all of this is going to be ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter's in your career house. So you'll have the opportunity to renegotiate. It could also mean that you're kind of repositioning yourself in terms of some of the media work that you're doing. Obviously, third house, be careful with budgeting and spending money, especially on travel or cars. I would try to kind of stay away from that in the fall. But definitely find ways to kind of like revamp anything connecting to, if you have a teaching business or an education business or anything like that, you may come back around to that and might actually provide you with like some sense of, extra income. Anyway, I hope that's helpful for you, Dena. You're welcome, Yulia. All right, we've got Melissa, Rachel, and then April. There she is. I see you, Melissa. I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was you. Sometimes I see a name and I'm like, is there more than one? All right, so Melissa, I've got you here. New moon in Virgo reading, October 6, 79. And looks like she says, hey, Candace, so excited to get your reading from you. It's been a long time, but I love to keep up with your videos. I've had a ton of changes this year. Anything in particular that you want to know? Gemini rising, sun in Libra, moon in Taurus. You've been going through that Pluto moon square. How's that been, girl? That's not the easiest transit. Mars is kind of dancing through your 5th house right now. So this is actually really great for creativity, hobbies, dating. Saturn hasn't quite opposed any of your Libra placements yet, so you got a break there. And looks like the biggies is going to be the fact that you've got this new moon conjunct Jupiter. Just moved, big changes for my kids and myself. Well, I love that you just moved and the new moon is right on top of your Jupiter. Let's look at that. So you've got Jupiter in your 4th house of home and family. So this represents a new expansive home and living situation. It's also about your relationship to home and family or partnerships. So believe it or not, the new moon tomorrow is all about literally getting your house in order. And you might feel like a little like scrambled because you're like, oh my God, there's this new moon and I have all these things I have to do and I'm still unpacking or I'm still getting settled or I'm still figuring out the lay of the land. But it's squaring Uranus. So there is this sense of you being like, like which end is up? The fact that it's on top of your Jupiter makes me feel like if you really do your damnedest to get organized, get things in order, make sure everything's clean, and also like set intentions about having a much closer relationship or bond to your family. And you can also use this to set new intentions for new relationships because Jupiter rules relationships. I would do that too. Let me see what she just said. Moved in April, big changes for my kids and myself. My oldest just graduated and we did move to a much bigger house and expand our household. We moved in with my boyfriend of 6 years. There you go. So the question is because Jupiter rules your partner and the new moon is in the 4th house, this is about finding ways to be like, okay, maybe, the dust has settled. Maybe you are settled in your home, but it's like, where am I learning to differentiate the time that I have between my family, my relationship, and myself? And that's kind of shown through the squares that you're kind of seeing to those particular houses. Now, the other thing I would think about is that this is where you want to see yourself 6 months from now in this particular 4th house, because this will become an eclipse. And it tells me that there can be some even bigger changes revolving around the living situation. So if you guys have plans to add additions, or you're going to paint walls, or you want to create a game room, or you want to improve your kitchen, whatever it is you want to do, this will give you like that 6 months to kind of work through some of that stuff and make some of that stuff possible. And then the other thing that I like is that it is trining your moon. So it's very grounded for all this energy. And usually Libras, I'm not going to say they don't do well with Virgo energy, but it is 12th house to their sun. So this can also represent there's going to be some unexpected things happening with home and family, you know, that are popping up in the lives of your children. All right, 12th house to your 5th. Changes with their bedrooms, changes with their closets, changes with their sleep schedules, changes with your relationship with when they're coming and when they're going, if they're in the house or if they're out of the house, that kind of stuff. So it's not totally, you know, challenging. I think a new moon conjunct Jupiter is actually pretty good. It's the second one that's going to be a little bit more challenging to deal with. And I think that that is this one. The Pisces eclipse is good for work. That's all you need to know. This one's a little bit more tricky because for Libras in general, it's going to be 29 degrees of Virgo. So it's representing for Libras, something is going on subconsciously that you're becoming aware of, and Mercury is going to be in your sign. So it's basically saying it's having you really focus on your communication skills with your kids. So after you have this solar eclipse at the end of September, not only is Mercury in your 5th house of children, but look at where Mars is, right on your Mercury. Mercury's your chart ruler. You may have a little friction going on with your kids, obviously touch wood. Relationship imbalances is very 29 degrees. And then it also could be, because Mars rules your 11th, you know, you've got some kids that aren't getting along with some of their friends, or you've got a kid that's going through an issue with one of their boyfriends or with one of their girlfriends, especially if they're teenagers. Where it's just kind of like, okay, they're dating somebody, now they're having issues. Like your kids might be coming to you, trying to talk to you more about the changes that are going on in their life, basically. This is also about really focusing on how you can be curating or creating a schedule so you're feeling like you don't just have time with your kids, you also have time with your partner. And so there can be like new hobbies that you're doing with your kids or you're doing as a family. You could have designated nights where you're like, okay, me and my boyfriend are going out and we're doing something. And to me, it's nice because it's going to be trining Pluto, so it can also be opening the door for better intimacy or travel. And it's also going to be trining Uranus, so it tells me that you're going to start being a little bit more kind of spontaneous when it comes to having fun. And maybe you have felt like you needed to get situated in your new home base, and now that you are, come the end of the summer, now you're like, now I can do more of the things that I want to do. And you're going to see, like next year, Saturn starts going through Aries and it starts opposing all your Libra. It's going to show you where maybe you have become either really focused on your kids or really focused on your relationship and needing to find the balance and feeling like you're either spending time with friends, you're reassessing certain friendship relationships, you're potentially even contemplating starting new groups, joining new groups. Like next year is all like, where are my people at? Like, where's my community? And that's what you're going to be kind of looking for. My son is moving out on his own and it was unexpected. Well, there you go. So the endings that come from home is the eclipses or the new moons in the 4th. The unexpectedness with children is right before your 5th house, right? So there you go. And so maybe it's going to represent you being like, you know, well, what can I do to help you? You know, very 29 degrees of Virgo. What do you need? And you're Mercury. So with Mercury going through the 5th house, you're very much in tune with what's going on with your kids. And maybe the oppositions to your 11th is just kind of like, I'm having to put my goals on back burner right now. Or if there's stuff going on socially, I'm trying to kind of help with this transition that I'm going through with my kid. And the South Node going through there as well. So I think that's part of it. But what's interesting is maybe when he moves out, with Venus conjunct Jupiter in your 4th house, you're going to go, okay, well now we have, you know, another kid moving into another room, or we're kind of reworking a room, or we're decorating something, or it can be used for entertainment. Or maybe it represents somebody coming to kind of visit or stay with you guys. Venus can be like a woman or like a female relative, or if you have other, you know, female daughters, they could be kind of spending more time at home, or there's going to be like a new space that you guys can actually use because he's leaving. So you got your root cut out for you, girl. I mean, I think that thankfully, you know, you have already been able to move, and it sounds like that was happening during last eclipse season. So now you're kind of looking at what has happened since last year, and so much more of this is going to be more focused on, you know, not feeling like you have to be so limited at home, and you're getting out into the world and you're doing things. The eclipse in Pisces is going to be much more connected to your career. Hopefully that was helpful for you, Melissa. I hope that you go through some of those eclipses smoothly. All right, we got Rachel, April, and Amanda. What's up, Rachel? What's going on, girl? Rachel says 5/16/89, Libra rising, Sun in Taurus, and Moon is in Libra. What opportunities can I look forward to this new moon and new season, specifically with work and money? Welcome. All right, well, something I'm going to tell you is that in theory, the new moon really doesn't have anything to do with work and money. It does, but it doesn't. So I guess I can find ways that it applies, but for the most part, for the Libra rising chart, the new moon that's happening in Virgo, in theory, represents going more in the direction of turning within, because it is tied to the 12th house, where whether you're a Libra rising or you're a Libra sun, when planets go through Virgo, there is this reevaluation and reassessment of everything that's happened over the last 11 months, and you're kind of going into your cocoon phase and you're preparing for something new. Virgo is health, it's habits, it's also routine, work, right, and our schedule. And so when planets go through Virgo, especially with the South Node being in Virgo, with your natal South Node being in Virgo, and this new moon being on the South Node, to me it looks like you're kind of going, all right, it's time for me to let go or release of any outdated ways of working or old work goals or old work routines. I'm ready to let that go. And it is going to be squaring Uranus in the 9th house. So it's about the shifts that you have in terms of your beliefs when it comes to health, work, productivity, and something needing to change. So I think that's going to be kind of like the curveball. The positive is that the moon is directly connected to planets in Cancer. So as a Libra rising, all year for the next year, Jupiter is expanding, lighting up, and bringing you some kind of good fortune when it comes to your career. It can take until next summer for you to totally see the effects of that. Now, what does Jupiter rule? Communication, travel, learning, law, philosophy. It's even connected to media. It's your 3rd house. So if you're in any of those fields, it means that it can bring you the opportunity to expand there. Or, I'm Libra rising, I think about the new moon and how I'm is it supposed to be saying, hey, go and work behind the scenes, take time off because mentally you need it, but it's about kind of breaking up your routines a little bit and finding ways to approach some of the work that you're doing from a much more spiritual or intuitive perspective. And it means that also, you have to change the way that you look at your sleep schedule, your travel schedule, your education schedule, and what you believe in when it comes to work. But that new moon is connecting to Jupiter expanding your career and Venus, which is ruled by the moon, also in your 10th house of career. And a lot of it's kind of like you going, all right, I got to let go of some things, and I got to trust the process. And it's a little bit of a trust fall, but if I'm willing to listen to what my emotions are telling me about making changes at work, so be it. Now, you can't really look at the new moon in Virgo without thinking about the lunar eclipse that's going to be in Pisces 2 weeks later. So 2 weeks from the new moon, then you have the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, which is in your 6th house. A lot of Libra risings are going to go, okay, got a new job, or I am now, focusing on a routine, or I'm taking care of my health, or I'm getting back into the swing of things, which is really great. And it's also going to trine Jupiter. So I think we're going to see a lot of opportunity for career growth as long as you're focusing on your health and your habits and you're applying yourself and you're listening to what your emotions are telling you about where or how you're working. Money is a completely different topic. Money is Venus. So, for you, Uranus is coming up on your Venus. We also have the new moon that's squaring Venus. So it's trying to get you to bring in money in a 9th house way. So it wants you to teach, train, write something, publish something, share a story with somebody, something that can kind of bring you money or income in that capacity. So I'm thinking that maybe it's about you kind of opening your mind, being like, am I willing to explore side hustles or new ways of making money or new jobs? And certainly I think that a lot of Libras or Libra risings will do that at some point this year. Now, this is the one that's the hard square to Uranus, the solar eclipse that's going to be in Virgo, which will be right on your ascendant. So you got to watch your health at the end of September. Puts Mercury on your ascendant, also trine Uranus. It's so funny. It's it wants you to share what's on your mind, or it wants you to teach, or it wants you to train, or it wants you to write something. And it's going to keep coming up over and over and over. And even the solar eclipse is saying you've got 6 months to kind of work through this, you know? So just to give you like feedback, right? So I'm Libra rising, 0 degrees, also born in 1989. So I have a lot of the same kind of Capricorn, you know, Cancer stuff that you have. And I've been looking at this and I'm like, I think the time is coming for me to actually like really scale back with work and like take a step back at the beginning of next year and probably most likely stop taking private clients. Probably, I say that, I don't know. I might eat my words on that. Because I think it's supposed to be about teaching, writing, creating content, creating other things that's going to come from the 12th house that's going to be connected to the 9th. So I would recommend just start getting into a meditation routine. Start seeing what's coming up for you intuitively with what you're feeling like you have to let go, what you're supposed to be kind of bringing in. And it's going to show you how you can have a lot more freedom over the next couple of years as Uranus is kind of dancing on your Mercury and your Venus. You're going to be either studying, teaching, traveling, learning, publishing. Something's going to come up that's going to bring you a lot of joy. It's also going to give you the opportunity to make some money, right? But what are you willing to release, South Node Virgo? So crazy. How's your sleep been during those cycles? I always find that like with the South Node transits and planets going through the 12th house, that was like, I just can't sleep. Like I'm just like up all night. So I wonder if it's affecting other early degree Libra risings the same way. All right, we got April and then Amanda and then Sasha. So let me see if I have you guys in here really quick. Do I have April in here? April. 4/1979, I do. What's up, April? Welcome back. All right, so April says, wondering what my natal chart brings me through next month. All right, so probably the biggest thing that I would be focused on is the fact that these eclipses are just going to be like going all over the place in your chart, right? Yes, Yollette, I got you. You're the last one. You're in there, don't worry. So let's go and look at the new moon, which is at 0 degrees in your 12th house. So this is going to be more pausing and reflecting, taking time to kind of sit with yourself, be in nature, focus on releasing anxiety, stress, or any worry or concern, especially of isolation. This is also in conjunct Saturn and Neptune in your 7th, and it's also in conjunct Pluto in your 5th. So it's basically saying to better connect, create, and I think harmonize in relationships, you need time for reflection. And then the next phase is going to be the lunar eclipse in Pisces, which obviously for all Virgo risings is very relational, so it's going to be really focusing on, okay, who you're married to, who you're dating, who your therapist, your business partner, your astrologer is, whatever. Arguably, I think this is the best eclipse all year. I've talked about it a little bit. I'm going to be making some videos on this soon, but you know, a full moon in Pisces, ruled by Jupiter, trining Jupiter, looks pretty nice. Looks pretty good for you, especially in the career department or in terms of your public reputation or anything kind of connected to your professional life. And the eclipse is going to be on your South Node, so it can bring you some good karma when it comes to relationships with superiors, when it comes to legal matters, when it comes to relationship with your partner. Certainly Jupiter going through the 10th house can also represent like connections with your partner's family. So it can be about them moving or them having some home expansion. So that eclipse doesn't really worry me. Even though it's on your South Node, I think that the trine to Jupiter is actually pretty fortuitous, and you could be feeling like there is this leveling up going on in an existing relationship. So there's definitely that. And if you're a stay-at-home mom, then this eclipse is going to be more about your relationship to your spouse and also your second child. And if you notice, it's also kind of squaring Neptune in the 4th. So it's about kind of getting out of old, outdated ways of like doing life. And all these mutable things are getting hit all over the place in your chart. So like You know, Saturn's going back into your 7th house, where there's going to be obviously tests and trials for your partner, potentially also your relationship, but you're working through that. And then you're also seeing the South Node that is going through your 12th house. So it's kind of this like subconscious cleaning out that's happening, where, you know, there's going to be more focus on your health, your habits, and your routines, versus letting go of feeling kind of like limited, blocked, or stuck with the natal North Node in the 12th. A lot of this is health related too. So I know you're a Virgo rising. You will see that it will impact you and your relationships, but now it's dipping into the 12th house. And what I have found with Pisces on the 6th house cusp is like, you know, in order to be healthy, there is a need to also pay attention to emotions, and also not get into like a daily grind, and make sure that you're making time for little intentional things that you can do throughout your day. So Pisces is flow. So it's like, are you feeding fish? Are you doing some kind of yoga or Pilates? Are you going to be by water? Are you taking time to meditate? Do you need to like nap? Things that sound silly, but they're not silly. These are things that you need to do to kind of keep the balance. And usually when you have like Virgo placements in the 12th house and planets go through there can be either like an awareness of like hidden enemies that kind of comes up for you, where they show themselves, or you can see that there are some bad habits that are surfacing that you're like, whoa, okay, I got to take care of this. There's like something that I need to do where I can kind of like wipe this out and clear this out. So I really recommend, with like the Pisces eclipse in your 6th house, doing like some spiritual kind of cleaning in your home, particularly if you have like an office space, or if you have an area where there's pets or anything kind of connecting to cleanliness or organization. And Pisces is about like working with water. So like lemon and salt water, or like Florida water, can be good to clean your home up. And then the Virgo eclipse is very close to your ascendant at the end of next month. So you want to pay attention to your health. And this is bringing all the attention to you. Like Virgo solar eclipse in the 1st is my goals, my body, my appearance, me, but it's going to oppose your 7th house, which is actually going to show you where, you know, new intentions and goals that you have for yourself are actually kind of coming into some friction with another person. So whether it's your second kid that's giving you a little bit of trouble, if it's, you know, you trying to be there to support your partner, but Saturn and Neptune retrograde in the 7th is them kind of sometimes being a little bit more blue, or they can be a little bit more quiet, or they can be a little bit more private. I do think what has been a really cool manifestation that I've seen for a lot of Virgo risings that have Pisces in their 7th is partners and your spiritual practice or your religious practice. So if you're not religious, then it may not apply, but it can be about like incorporating some of your spiritual beliefs and your spiritual practice with your partner, right? Because Pisces is like baptism. So with the North Node being there, with Saturn being there, with Neptune being there, I would be like, I would love to see you meditating with your partner regularly and using this as like a practice to kind of bring you guys closer together. It would be good if you guys can, you know, take a walk by water, or hang out by a beach, or if you guys can spend time going fishing, or maybe you spend some time in a sauna or a spa together, right? That's the other energy of like Pisces. But a lot of this is like being there and helping and supporting your partner, especially while Saturn is kind of wrapping up on your Venus, and also you're seeing the North Node eclipses are continuing. And those are all really important things. And what's crazy is like, look, even where is the other eclipse that I was looking at? Oh, it's this one. So the lunar eclipse in Pisces, Mars is in your 2nd house and it's opposing your sun. So there's something going on where there's like, I mean, you know, I would say Mars in opposition to your sun. It's trying to get you to work with another person. And I don't know if you guys are going to be like working together on, you know, feeling more secure, on building up your finances, on building up your intimacy. But these eclipses are so relational for you. Oh, we both love meditating and doing Qigong and Tai Chi. Cool. So there's going to be more of that that's going to be happening. And I would say with like the solar eclipse on your ascendant, just take note and use this as a time to really focus on your goals and things you're wanting to do. And don't take it personally with Saturn and Neptune in opposition to the eclipse if other people are like, yeah, you know, that's not really my thing. I support you doing it, but I don't want to do that. So there can be something that you're wanting to start that he may not participate in. And then obviously like the finale is like Pluto is still conjunct your moon. So from a Virgo standpoint of the ascendant, new changes in health, habits, and routine, but it's in your 5th house. So that's like a lot of emotional purging and clearing and things going on where sometimes you can have some relational issues with women, or, your kids are going through, some periods where they're really evolving and kind of growing up. And there is like a sense of you like being tested a little emotionally, at least on the home front when it comes to either one of your children, or it can be, just like mothering in general. Like I've never seen a Pluto moon transit that doesn't manifest as either a change of home, a major transformation with a female in the family, going through some growing pains, kind of being a mom, right? That can be something else that can kind of go on. And all these Pisces transits and Virgo transits, they're all happening prior to next year when Saturn and Neptune ultimately come into conjunction with your Mercury and then also your Mars. So it's a lot of getting on the same page with your partner emotionally and spiritually so you can go deeper into connection, passion, intimacy, and financial matters more so next year. And you will definitely see that happen as Saturn's coming up on your Mercury. I would actually start learning about that. Saturn hitting your Mercury, South Node hitting your Saturn. That's definitely like a lot of like relational stuff. And I don't know if it's about the relationship to one of your kids because of Saturn's connection, or if it's going to be about you being like, okay, I'm just going through a season in my marriage or my relationship where we're super good. We're just both kind of doing our own thing, right? So yeah, Venus in the 7th house is generally pretty devoted, but Saturn retrograde at a 7 in the 12th definitely has a huge focus, at least spiritually, on the relationship you have with yourself and all of those oppositions that you have. It's like there's times that we, come together and the times that we kind of do our own thing apart, and oppositions or polarity points can certainly be complementary. So just something to think about. Anyway, I hope that that's helpful in giving you some insight for the next month or so. So let's see, who else do we have here? We've got Amanda, Sasha, and then Yollette. For those of you guys who are still watching, give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, please, and like this stream. Any interaction helps the channel grow. I appreciate it. All right, so we've got Amanda. Let's pull up Amanda's chart here. There we go. I'm pretty sure this is you. Let's just double check. January 2nd, 85. Oppositions can definitely balance things out, that's for sure, if you've got them aspected right. We got another one, look, 29 degrees, Virgo rising, so you're going to have the eclipse right on your ascendant. All right, let's see. What did she say here? All right, hey girl, please pull my chart and tell me what I need to know. It's been a rough few years, like exploded on me in 2020, and since then I've been through a divorce, moved back to my hometown in 2023, a serious relationship that's been up and down and still lingers in the background, and more. I need stability, but life seems anything but, especially in the relationship department. Is there light at the end of the tunnel? What do I need to do or not do? Thanks in advance. Ooh, I don't know. I always cringe when somebody says, you should do this, you should do that. Because I don't know, I run when I hear that. So I try not to say it. But I will tell you what I think can be beneficial for you to hear and what you can kind of take into consideration. Probably the fact that you are not done with the Saturn and Neptune transit. So over the next couple months, let's say between now and January, Saturn and Neptune, so Lord of Karma and Lord of Confusion, is still dancing on your descendant. And I have come to the conclusion, at least personally, like I think astrologers, we can kind of make our own perspectives, and that influences how we kind of predict and help people. I don't really care at this point where Pisces is in anybody's chart. It does not matter to me. Pisces represents what we must release, what we must surrender to, what we must let go of in order to start something new. So the fact that the North Node is in Pisces, you've got eclipses in Pisces, Saturn and Neptune's in Pisces, there are things that are super heavy, emotional, confusing, they're coming and going, they're kind of ghosty, and it doesn't matter what house that's happening in, everybody's having this experience. So for you, it's still in your 7th house or your descendant, which is where and how you meet other people. how you relate, how you date, how you partner, how other people show up and meet you. So there's already been this very unreliable energy having had Neptune there, where there's confusion, people come and go. Saturn, heavy responsibility, you never know what you're going to get. 1 minute they're there, the next minute they're not reliable, and they're gone. I think it's pretty fair to say. And then 29 degrees deals with boyfriends because it's a Leo degree, and it also deals with drama, and Pisces brings tears. So I would go into the next 6 months having super high standards, low expectations, number one. Number two is know that the 7th house or the descendant is also your shadow. So like there is this sense of, and I hate it because when I think about like my descendant, I'm like, there's some truth there. What is it in the 7th house is usually what we are drawn to, but it also represents the side of ourselves that we don't always integrate. So there can also be part of you, even though you're a Virgo rising and you're a Capricorn sun and a Taurus moon and you're very grounded and you pride yourself on that. There is part of you in relationships that is always questioning, wandering, seeking, and maybe a little unsure, maybe a little hurt, a little wounded, right? Feeling victimized because you've gone through a divorce or because, something has already kind of broken up and fallen apart. Your first marriage is also your 7th house. So, it can be that there is still a sense of you working out some of those lessons through other people where you can see history kind of repeating itself in a way and you're like, why does this keep happening? What's going on? Because clearly there can be something that is still left unresolved that's connected to your first marriage. Even if you're divorced, even if you don't want to be with that person and you're like, I'm done, the question is, have you healed from it? Because if you haven't, you're going to still bring a lot of that stuff in. It's just my hot take. 2 is the eclipse that's coming up, that's going to be in Virgo here pretty soon. Is going to be taking place, where is it? Right on your ascendant. Okay, so like, all right, you're going to have the Pisces eclipse. It's going to be in your 7th house, whole sign that can give you some kind of definitive insight as to what's working and not working in a relationship around early September. I think it's more job related to you personally. I also think this could be a time where a partner is kind of coming out and telling you what they're thinking or what they're feeling, and there could be some shocks and surprises going on with them. It does trine Jupiter, so it's good for emotions, it's good for work, it's good for health. But the second eclipse that you're going to have, which is going to be in Virgo, literally right on your ascendant, okay? So if you're like 28, 29 degrees of Virgo rising, if you're 0, 1, 2 degrees of Libra rising, this is an eclipse that's going to affect you because it's exactly conjunct your ascendant. And the ascendant is connected to your body, it's your identity, it's your appearance, and it puts Mercury right on your ascendant. This can be foreshadowing, whether it's around the time of the eclipse or within a 6-month period, that there is a new beginning for you. Solar eclipses is taking action, first house is self, what are my goals, what do I want? And also, Mercury is about how you communicate, how you think, what you need, what are your goals. And what I like about this is it's trining Uranus. So it's like, look, if you want to travel, you can travel. If you want to change your career, you can change your career. If you want to take a class or, learn how to do something new, you can do that. And it's also trining Pluto in your 4th going into your 5th house. So it's saying if you want to make big changes with dating or in regards to relationships or even self-expression or even children, right? All of these things, you can do. So that's the positive. The challenge is that it's at a critical degree. So I would be keeping my schedule kind of light, revolving around the time of the eclipse personally. I also would highly, highly recommend getting into a regular meditation routine now because you've got a lot of planets in the 12th house, which is the subconscious. It is going to be really beneficial to have like a game plan or a vision board or a spiritual practice that you can kind of lean on when the eclipses are coming in next month. And with Mercury on the ascendant, it means that you're going to be feeling like you want to communicate and talk about relationships. Or it's at a 5, you're going to want to talk about hobbies, or you're going to want to talk about romantic partners, or you're going to want to talk about having fun. But this can be an indication that there is a potential pregnancy coming in with this chart because it's direct on your ascendant. It is making aspects to your 5th house lord, Uranus, by trine. It's also making aspects involving your chart ruler on the ascendant. Now, for a Capricorn, you know, Jupiter and Capricorn, all that stuff, it's friendly with that. You're not going to see anything kind of negative. But what's not friendly is the fact that it opposes Saturn and Neptune. And I think we're going to see a lot of later degree Virgo risings, early degree Libra risings that are absolutely fed up with Saturn and Neptune. So they're going to say, okay, opposition to Saturn, I'm quitting my job, or I'm, you know, going to a new gym, or I'm going to be working with a new doctor, or I'm sick of having this routine, or I'm going to let go of this bad habit. And it doesn't mean that it's smoking or drinking. It could be how you're eating, how you're sleeping, whatever. And then it's also going to oppose Neptune in your 7th house. So there's also this sense of a lot of later degree Virgos, early degree Libras going, you know what, I'm not waiting for you to figure out where we're going anymore. You know, Saturn and Neptune, you're lost, you're in and you're out, you're ghosty, you're not committing, you're not healed, you're not ready, you're not showing me that you're mature, you're not showing me that you want what I want, so like, I'm out of here. And it's pushing you to communicate and tell other people like what's up. And a lot of this is also, you have to be very careful with Saturn and Neptune on your 7th house cusp, especially in Pisces. People can be deceiving, they could have mental issues, they can have addiction issues, they could be hiding things, you know, and I'm not saying this to make you paranoid. I'm just telling you there are a lot of things that you don't know that can literally be revealed to you throughout this next eclipse season, okay? And I think that you're going to have a better idea as you're getting into October where you stand with other people, and then Saturn will come back in with Neptune and you'll decide whether or not you're going to kick someone or something to the curb if you're not feeling like you're getting clarity. And that will be happening next year. And then Saturn and Neptune are actually going to meet in February in your 7th house of relationships. Now, ultimately, Jupiter rules your 7th house. Jupiter and Saturn are going to trine over the fall. So I think that can be good. And you're still going to have a Mercury retrograde that's going to be there next spring. So there's still a lot of time to reevaluate and reassess. But my girl, between the eclipse on your ascendant and the next eclipse you're about to have on February 17th, right on top of your Venus, both of those things are making me feel like it's like a birthing process. And I don't know if it means that you're going to meet somebody new who's going to be younger and fall in love and it's going to be the birth of a new relationship. I don't know if it's going to be a new hobby that turns into a business. I don't know if it's going to be a kid. But having an eclipse in the 5th house, having an eclipse also on your ascendant, I would say if you don't really know where you're going in this relationship, be very careful if you guys are sleeping together. And then on top of that, Uranus is on your moon. I mean, my God. Also, part of it could be about you deciding what it is that you want in terms of dating and relationships. If you want something that's unconventional and free, or are you thinking about commitment? Do you want a family? These things can also be kind of coming up for you. But eclipses coming into your 5th house can be an indication that the time is kind of coming if that's something that you're deciding to do, right? Anyway, I hope that that's kind of helpful. I do feel like the light at the end of the tunnel is the closer you're getting to February. But as a late degree Virgo rising, it's more about what you're doing and not getting concerned or consumed with what other people are doing or not doing. It's being like, I'm coming up with a plan. I'm not putting all of my eggs in that one basket, right? And you'll see what I'm talking about as we get closer to the eclipse. Hopefully that's helpful for you. All right, we got Sasha. And let's see which Sasha this is. February 18th. What's up, Sasha? Pisces rising, Sun in Pisces, Moon in Cancer. All right. What's going on, girl? I got a tarot card reading from you last week that I loved. You talked about how changes happen in threes. I just quit my toxic job, cut off my one-sided crush, and my landlord is selling my house. Just curious if this is showing in my chart what areas will be changing for me first. Yes. Okay, so first things first, Jupiter deals with your job. Endings of jobs will generally either come through the 9th house or sometimes it can come through the 5th house. So the fact that you just had a Mercury retrograde in your 6th house where you're changing jobs, now you're having a new moon in your 6th house where hopefully you're looking for a job, and you're also about to experience a retrograde that's going to be happening in November, which is about changing jobs. That all checks out. 2, the change that's going on with the crush is interesting. Maybe part of it is the fact that you are coming into this eclipse that's going to be in your 7th house on your north node, where it's going to give you an opportunity to pivot and change directions with dating and set new intentions to like meet people, especially in later September. And that solar eclipse is going to oppose Saturn and Neptune on your ascendant. So the likelihood is you're going to find somebody who's really interested in you, possibly within a few months, and you're not even really looking for them. And I think like for Pisces, like the eclipses that are going to be happening in the 1st house, which is in opposition to the sun in the 7th, is showing you where you're prioritizing and putting yourself first. Saturn and Neptune, maybe having to get clear about what your goals are, who you are, what you want, in opposition to other people. And my interpretation of Saturn and Neptune on your south node, I mean, you're coming into your Saturn return, so it'll get easier, I think, after next year, where you learn that it's not scary to be alone. You can do stuff on your own. You don't want to get too comfortable there with the south node in your 1st house. Certainly, there will be times of coming together and times of going apart, right? Look at your astrology. Saturn in the south node in the 1st is like, I can do it alone, but it doesn't mean I have to. And then Mars north node in the 7th house is like teaching you that there is some karmic entanglement in partnering with some people, because they can actually bring you some challenges, some trouble, some conflict, and you kind of oscillate. You go back and forth between being like, I want to be alone, and then you're in a relationship and you're like, never mind, I don't want to be in a relationship, I want to go back to being by myself. And you'll go back and forth, and you'll notice that there's like seasons where you'll be doing one or the other. Next year, there's going to be more like of an assessment of, okay, I'm good on my own, I know what I want, I'm independent, you know, but if the right thing comes along, I would consider doing it. And maybe you've seen that recently with like, you know, Saturn in your natal Saturn sign, Mars in your natal Mars sign. I think it was more about cutting somebody off, versus next year, I think you're going to see it's going to be more about somebody coming around and then you being like, well, I'd be willing to give up some of my, you know, freedom and some of my, you know, kind of identity for the right person. So you see the change at work, you see the change in relationships, and the landlord stuff is also the 6th house, because landlords and, you know, dealing with debt or anything kind of connecting to mortgages or even rental properties, I find is the 6th. Thankfully, Jupiter's coming up on your moon, so that means that it is going to provide you with potentially a new romantic crush or fling, 5th house. It's also going to hopefully provide you with a new home, right, the moon. And then Mercury rules your 4th. So, you know, Uranus is going into Gemini. It's not in your Placidus 4th house yet. This is more shakeups going on with your home, and then like the financial kind of pivots that you're having to do. But when you have a transit that's going to be stronger, involving either transit Mercury or your natal Mercury, that's going to provide a change to your home. Well, Mercury's been in opposition to Mercury, so it represents like this kind of, oh my God, the house is being sold. What am I doing? Something's going to change. I think you have some time. I think it's possible. I don't know how long the landlord's giving you, but when I look at some of your transits, Jupiter's going to hit your moon over the next month, so it's good to be looking at houses. You may be in a position where you have until the fall, when Mercury is retrograde in your 10th house, where work stuff's kind of getting better situated and your home life is getting better situated. But all my Pisces risings, having Uranus in Gemini, it means some of you guys are going to be like, I can't sign a lease. I don't know where I'm going to be for a long period of time. You might be doing short-term rentals. Some of you guys might be renting rooms places. You might go and stay with family. You might also be going back home. So it really depends on your specific situation. I think that it doesn't become a little bit more critical in like the home department, maybe until Mars starts squaring your Mercury, which is going to be in October. But yes, I see all of these things. I see the change at work, the change with relationships, and also the change that's kind of going on in the home front. And everything is really testing you, and it's putting you in a position, I think, to kind of prepare for your Saturn return, which is just exactly how much can I get done on my own, and like how much do I need help from other people. And the 7th house is not necessarily just a relationship. It's like, it's your astrologer, it's a therapist, it's going to be business partners, it's going to be close allies and friends. And Sasha says, I'm definitely going to end up doing some short-term rentals. That can be smart, especially until like Uranus has fully ingressed into Gemini, because like next year it'll move into Gemini, and I think it's going to be there with Mars. So short-term, subleases, taking over people's like leases, anything connecting to, renting a room or doing something that's like more flexible. I think it's a good idea. And Jupiter hitting your moon makes me feel like there's a good possibility that there could be a partner that's going to come in this year. In particular, your moon's at a 19. You might meet somebody who's like marriage material this year. You're still really young, but you might meet somebody who's kind of along those lines, and you might be kind of like, oh, there could be some significant connection here. Certainly with the South Node going through your 7th house, I mean, that's a time where you can definitely meet significant like soulmates. So I'd be curious to see who you meet, but don't doubt yourself or feel like you made the wrong decision or you made the wrong move, or that, you know, you're not going to be okay being alone, because I think doing this in preparation of the solar eclipse better sets you up to meet with others. So the solar eclipse at the end of September in Virgo is a time to start manifesting new relationships, but it can also be a time where there's new working relationships, right? Virgo. And look at Mercury is in Libra, so it's like, how can we work together? And it's conjunct Mars. So people who are going to be like, hey, I'm trying to rent my place out, you know, it's at a 4, or hey, I'm looking for a roommate, or people who are like, hey, we're trying to fill this position, are you available? And it'll give you the opportunity to negotiate and tell people what you want. Be picky. Saturn and Neptune in your 1st house is be picky. Don't just be you know, super receptive of the first offer or the first apartment or the first person that you meet. Really feel your way into it. Meditate on those things and make sure that it really resonates with you. And it's a part of your vision. And what you might find is 6 months down the road, you know, you're going to have a lunar eclipse in Virgo, and it'll be having Mercury retrograde in your sign. So even down the road, it's still a lot of, do I like this job? Do I like this partner? And you could give yourself 6 months to kind of feel it out and make sure you like where you're living and where your life is at. And if not, you can make changes in February and March of next year, right? Anyway, I hope that's helpful for you. Yes, change comes in 3s, and it's like written all over your chart, all over your chart, all over your chart. All right, and we've got Yollette, the MVP. And I think I've got you in my files here, Yollette. 81384, yes. You're welcome. Yollette says, I'd like to know what's in store for me with this new moon. I've been the main one providing it at home, and it's weighing heavy on me. Thanks. Let's take a look. Obviously, as a Leo rising, you know, the new moon is going to be in your whole sign 2nd. So I could see this coming from the perspective of, you know, I'm needing to set new intentions revolving around money, resources, which is good. And listen, you got 2 new moons that are going to be happening in your money house. So the universe is giving you the opportunity to build on that, to bring more in. Go listen to my August horoscopes. You're going to resonate with what I was kind of saying from what you're asking me. But I talk about how we have the new moon that's going to be in your whole sign 2nd house, where you're setting intentions for money and resources and what you need, and how it is going to square Uranus. So it's bringing up whether or not other people are contributing or chipping in, and like where there is some friction with groups or other people. And it's also going to be in conjunct or quincunx Saturn in your 8th, which is whether or not other people are financially contributing, or if there are partners that are lacking funds or resources, or they're, you know, short on cash. And it's also in conjunct or quincunx Pluto, which is connecting to your whole sign 7th house of relationships. Girl, it's written all over your chart. I think that with the new moon in your 1st house square Uranus, the question is really, A, are you considering or contemplating some sudden career moves or pivots to make more money? And that might be something you're thinking about over the next month or 2. 2, whenever I say a new moon in my 2nd house, I always tell clients, budget. Look at what you have, look at what you need, and start budgeting and thinking about where you can make some changes and get really clear about what you need for security. Number 3 is that this is also a new moon that is trining your Jupiter, which could actually bring some kind of support in terms of a new job, like intentions that you're setting and knowing your worth and knowing what it is that you deserve, whether that's support or a better paying job, or that maybe means investing in yourself a little bit and working on the self-esteem, going out for something that maybe you wouldn't typically go for, but it could actually be a new position or a new offer that could come your way. New moons plant seeds for about 1 to 6 months. So you could be working with this energy anytime pretty much tomorrow on. But the square to Uranus means that you're feeling stressed and kind of, there's some pressure to take responsibility, and you're like, I just want to be able to do me, right? Well, the second one that's going to be coming up is going to be then at 29 degrees, which is saying whatever you didn't start doing as of this month, you're going to start doing next month. And you're going to be like, oh shit, now I have to do it. And I don't recommend doing that. I recommend like getting ready and getting prepared with the first new moon. This one is going to be still in your second house, where you get a double dose of money manifestation, setting intention in regards to resources, but it opposes Saturn. So maybe after a whole month of affirmations, treating yourself, focusing on your own needs, prioritizing yourself, realizing your worth, you're going to get to the eclipse next month and you're going to go, you know what, this isn't working for me. This is what I need. You're going to communicate and voice that, particularly to siblings, relatives, neighbors, or partners, Libra, third house. You're going to tell other people what you can and cannot, handle, and where other people need to be stepping up, doing more, contributing, or where they need to be more emotionally understanding and receptive of how much you're making a sacrifice. And it's setting in motion what will now be 6 months of you going, all right, I'm not going to be doing this much longer. I'm investing in me. Because 6 months down the road, when you have the lunar eclipse in Virgo, you're either saying, I want to be able to keep more of my money. I want to get paid back. I want to know that you're contributing. And I'm no longer going to be in a position where I'm accepting people's, shortcomings or their excuses, or that I'll pay you back or whatever. Like, that's not going to be happening 6 months from now when that retrograde takes place. The North Node going into your 8th house too is like, investments, savings, joint money. I think Saturn going out of your 8th house, you're going to hear that less people are not working, or that there's less contributions, or there's less issues with finances. And Jupiter does rule your 8th. So it is possible you have a little bit of a break with financial support that's going to happen with the Pisces eclipse next month. And it's going to trine Jupiter. So you might feel like there's like a guardian angel or somebody who's kind of popping in and kind of helping you get through if you've been having some stress. And I would say Jupiter in the 12th house could be going to church, praying, having a religious or spiritual practice, asking a higher power to bless you, to help you. It could also mean that there are people who pop in out of the blue that are supporting you. It could also mean that there's donations or like generous people that are supporting you. So those things can happen. And you will come into a period with the North Node next year conjunct the moon. So you're supposed to be receiving support. And sometimes it's like people who are like, man, I've never had to go to, a food drive. I've never had to go and ask for support from my church. I've never had to ask my parents for money. And then suddenly you tell people that you're going through it or that you're stressed, and everybody's like, how can I help? What do you need? Especially with Jupiter in the 12th house. So a lot of this is also teaching you to let other people know that if this is weighing so heavy on you, that you need some help and you need some support. Ultimately, Mercury rules your second house of money. So you're under a once in like an 18, 19 year transit where the South Node's coming up on your Mercury. So that in itself is enough for me to go, yeah, you can't keep going the way that you're going because you're going to make yourself sick, or you are going to hit a point where you're like, financially, this is not sustainable. That is coming. But with the North Node on your moon, trining Jupiter in the 12th house, it tells me that there is some guardian angel energy, or there's going to be people who are going to be a part of your family. Praying to your ancestors, connecting with ancestors with Jupiter in the 12th house, I think can also be really beneficial, because you can find that there can be some support that can kind of come through emotionally and spiritually. And there could be some amazing things that can actually happen. Miracles can happen when you see Jupiter in the 12th house or Jupiter in aspect to Neptune. And we are going to see those things. So emotionally, you got to let people know that you're kind of stuck or that you need some support. You'd be surprised how many people could actually come through and help you. But I think like a double dose of setting intentions with what is going on with your finances for the next month is good. And Virgo really wants you to kind of get things organized. So it's not so much about, well, are you paying your bills? It's more kind of like you going, how much time am I spending running around in this situation? How do I get out of it? What am I needing to change? And also, where are my goals revolving around money shifting? Where it's not just about surviving, it's going to be about thriving and actually bringing in more, right? Very emotional with the eclipses and Saturn and Neptune going back into your 8th house. Sometimes, obviously, touch wood, when people go through those eclipses, they also receive inheritance or other money that can kind of come through. She says, I have a friend that's going to sit and do plant medicine with me on the 29th. Well, that's going to be Interesting time to do it. Where's the moon? Scorpio. Okay. That's a good time to do plant medicine. The moon's in Scorpio. It is going to trine the North Node and also Jupiter, but it is coming into a square with Mercury. So I definitely could see that. I mean, being friends and social networks that are changing your perspective on what you're supposed to do. And obviously, if it's something you've done before, a couple of days of integration afterwards, and your whole perspective is kind of shifted in terms of what you're supposed to be doing. So I hope you get the insight that you need from that, and that it's like a good, therapeutic kind of healing process for you. Definitely look into Uranus transiting your North Node in the 10th house. Part of me feels inclined to tell you that this is just the beginning, and it looks like you're either going to be working more than one job, or there's going to be a new job opportunity or something that's going to pop up in this next year. And I don't know if you're going to start a business with a friend, if you're going to be doing a side hustle or a part-time job or something, but something's going to come up that's going to give you the opportunity to make more money. Mercury's the ruler, and it's in the 2nd. So think about ways that you can be kind of pivoting and diversifying when it comes to your professional stuff and what you actually enjoy doing, right? Hopefully that's helpful for you. All right, well, with that being said, that is it for me for this evening, guys. I'm glad that I was able to kind of hang out with you this Friday, read your guys' charts. As a reminder, I'm here every Friday. We alternate, so next Friday is going to be tarot, but join me in 2 weeks. We'll be doing astrology again, especially as we're getting into eclipse season. Make sure you subscribe. Click the bell button below. Subscribe to my channel. I'm here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will catch you guys back here on Sunday for Astro Weather. Until next time, have a good one, and I'll see all of you guys very soon. Take care.